Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Big Finish Fans. Now, this is a very exciting Big Finish Fans because it's us talking about the relaunch and picking our 5 favorite releases of the year so far. Once again, I'm joined as ever with Luke.
Yes, hello everyone, and it's a year, isn't it, of us two doing these together? Really, I mean, we've
It
had.
is.
I've been with you before, and we've had Big Finish fans for
Have you?
a good long while now. Yeah, I mean, I believe so. I think it was
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I
But
hope so. It is.
yeah, this is like the start of our more regular approach to. It's like the current era of Big Finish fans, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, like the iteration. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Uh, Hello, stylish person in the chat. Hello, Dance Place, and
Hello,
hello,
hello.
Productions.
Hello,
A
hello.
short
Thanks for
delay in the
joining.
stream, but we're here much earlier than we usually are. So
That's a bonus. It's a bonus.
because I mean, about a year ago, you had this one planned by yourself, didn't you? And then at the last minute, you thought,
Yes, yeah.
I'll see if Luke's free, rope him in, and get him to pad this out with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all the better for it. I think it's good to have you by my side, and I'm very grateful to have you here.
Right.
Um,
Makes
you know,
my
just to
purchases of
gush over you.
makes my purchases of Big Finish worthwhile. Being able to talk them through with you, get our
That's
thoughts out there.
that's that's one way of justifying all this spending. It's like we can do a stream on it. It's fine. It's all good. It's all right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Hello,
like
Lewis Frisbee, and hello, Ben Miller. Ben Miller says
hello,
different
hello.
location. Yeah.
Yeah, I am house sitting and dog sitting, so I'm not in the usual Doctor Who house. So I've tried to make it a little bit Doctor Who-y by putting some of the collection sets there, so it doesn't feel like, oh, that doesn't look very Doctor Who related. But yeah, it's all good.
Got a
Before we
little
dive into,
sprinkling of Doctor Who on there.
yeah, little nugget of ye old Doctor Who. So I guess we'll wait for people to join before we get on to like the meat of this stream about the relaunch. What have you been doing? How have you been occupying yourself?
Just same old, really. Recovered from COVID, so been back to work, and we had a nice little chat last night and did some pre-recording, didn't we? Got
Yeah, for
something in the
a nice
can.
little project, which I'm sure we'll announce in about a few months' time. So
Yeah, we'll leave that one for a little while, but yeah, it's exciting stuff. Is in the works. But how about you? How have you been? Got your house sitting going on?
it's just mundane stuff: watering the garden, taking the dog for a walk. Bit of season 22.
Yeah.
Watched the Nicola Bryant in Conversation. Really good interview that is. What else have I been doing? Silver and Ice. Been listening to that, and Fourth Doctor Adventure Series 9. We'll see if they're on our top 5 tonight. But yeah, that's been me really. Nothing that major.
Nah. Yeah, I think Silver and Ice is the most recent release I finished off. Yeah, we'll see if that pops up at all as we go forward. So,
Should we
yeah.
should we dive into it? I feel like we should just
Cool.
get going because it's quite
Did we want
exciting.
to talk about the relaunch itself first, like our thoughts and?
Yes, I've got a little banner prepared. I've tried to
Oh, here we go.
be fancy, so it sort of divides it up. So the relaunch, we've known it was coming for a long time. I remember going to a Big Finish Day back in I think 2015, and I think somebody asked Nick Briggs at that event, going, "I want a subscription, but I just want a certain doctor." And this is when the idea came about. When Nick's idea was to put each doctor in their own little box, their own little ranges. And that was starting to happen with the fourth and eighth Doctor, but not with the other
Yeah.
Doctors. And then we sort of got a first glimpse of what this sort of relaunch would be like in the main range about 2017, with like Alien Heart, Dalek Soul, that trilogy of stories.
I think also at some point, I believe it was just after the Mags trilogy, the way they did the main range changed. Like instead of it just being one script editor and producer throughout, with I believe Alan Barnes departed the main range as script editor, and they got like a different script editor in for each Doctor and a different like producer in, so that had their own little teams, but it was just still within that main range structure of one 2-disc release per month, and then divided up into trilogies there.
Yeah, because I think one of the logistical reasons why the relaunch happened as well But I think Jason A. Gallery said that the main range sales were declining, but the box sets were going up. So it felt more ethical just to go down that route for them, more financially viable just to put them in. And I think that it does work out cheaper buying these box sets than paying, like £15, physical for a main range release.
Mm.
Do you miss the main range? I feel like this is a good little thing to talk about in a way because of the relaunch.
I suppose in some ways I do a little bit, but it depends. Like sometimes you do when you don't have a regular 4-parter, but then sometimes things like Silver and Ice come along where you've got the Reboss Inheritance, for example, which could easily slot into the a main range release anyway.
Yeah, you do get the odd release where you're like, oh, that could have been part of the main range for sure.
Yeah, and there's just times like that where you realise that it's just a format of releasing things, really. It's not necessarily anything's gone, it's just changed.
Yeah, I think I do miss the main range in the sense of sort of the regularness of it. Just like dedicating 3 months with a certain doctor. I sort of miss that in a way. And sort of you can guarantee like the second week of a month you'd get your main range story. You could predict what releases were coming with the main range.
Yeah, it's like there's less of a backbone now to Big Finish, isn't there? It feels like it just feels like random releases a month. There's a little bit less structure to it, but yeah, I can understand why they've made this change though. I suppose spreading it out more just makes it feel like there's less of a center. But at the same time, the main range hasn't really been the center of Big Finish for a long time anyway.
Yeah.
It's more just been that nice, reliable foundation that's there.
It was that sort of comfort thing where it's there, it's ticking along in the background
Yeah.
while you get your odd box set,
Yeah, I think now it's evened out a lot more amongst the doctors, particularly the first 3 doctors now. It's nice that they feel like they're on a even level with the other doctors.
Yeah, I think the relaunch with recasting the first Doctor and the second Doctor, I think that it makes it feel more of an event now. And there's a lot of speculation with Beyond War Games, which is probably going to be out sometime this week.
Yeah, I'd say tomorrow or Wednesday, probably.
So I think that it keeps things a bit more fresh with this relaunch with itself, and I think I think as a whole, I don't think it's launched as well as it should have for me.
I think it's a good idea,
Mhm.
and I can understand the idea that the main range itself is a bit of an odd one because as it was at the start of Big Finish, they only had Sylvester McCoy, Colin Baker, and Peter Davison, and then Paul McGann a little bit later came along. And so when they were a bit smaller business-wise, only pumping out this one release per month, sometimes 2 of like other things going on, but it was never as big as it was now. And so with that, it made sense that this was the main range. This is the only real Doctor Who range, bar the odd special release. But as times moved on, as Tom Baker got involved and he got his own range, Paul McGann got pushed off into his own range. It's all like, why are these 3 doctors the main range doctors? What's special about them compared to the other doctors? So it makes sense for them to be spun off into their own ranges. And I guess the relaunch itself was a way to try and give that more structure overall and sort of like divide up releases fairly with about 2 box sets per doctor for the most part. But
Yeah,
it's more just yeah. I
I'll go
think the
on.
thing with box sets now is that a lot of the time you'll have it's usually about 2 stories per box set, and there'll be one that's great, and then there's another story in that set that's just there. That's just there. That feels like sometimes it's padding it out, at least so far with the quality of a lot of these. I think as we go into the top 10, it's a bit awkward because we're just going releases rather than individual stories, aren't we? And so that makes it a bit harder to choose sometimes because there has been a lot of individual stories I've enjoyed. But when I look at box sets as a whole, they sort of all mellow out and even out a bit, and just like there's a lot of good stuff, but there's not been much great so far. There's not been too much which has really blown me away. I think choosing the 5th spot on this list was particularly hard.
I think the thing with Big Finish now is it's at such a good place. It's on such a good level. The stories are always a very high standard. So it is getting more and more difficult to get the breakout releases, what are like the 9, 10 out of 10 stories. And I think for me personally, I was probably having more of a good time last year in terms of Big Finish, because the classic Doctors sort of rested, the main Rangers ended, and it was very much the new Doctors being front and center, which I think, it was the Doctors of our childhood, so it was nice for them to sort of step up to the plate and be the front and center of Big Finish. And I think that's why I probably enjoyed that year a little bit more than
Yeah,
what
I'd
I'm
say at
enjoying Big
this
Finish
point
now.
I'd say at this point in 2021, I was having a better time overall with Big Finish. Yeah, and I also think maybe it comes down to an issue that's brought up in The Incredibles, actually, the original film back, what was it, 2004? Like, one of the messages of that is, if everyone is special, then no one's special. And that's the thing of when you had the 8th Doctor in the box sets, they felt like events because he was the only Doctor who really had that with Dark Eyes and then Doom Coalition. They felt like these huge monolith releases of the year.
Yeah, it's like the 5th Doctor
But
box set and
now,
Philip Hinchcliffe Presents. They were
yeah,
highly big boxes for everyone to pick up.
they were like these huge events and something special. But now, because every Doctor is on an even playing field there, it's like they've raised them all up to be that special. But now that every release is special, none of them are, because they're all the same. It feels like once we get one out of the way, it's now on to the next one. There's no real big box sets as such. I mean, I'm guessing that'll change next year with the 60th anniversary release at least. But
yeah, I mean, you do get the odd like big release of the month, but I guess it's getting harder and harder to go which is the big release of the month now.
Yeah, I feel like with 40 it had that potential, but because that's so spread out between the first release and the second release, it's hard to judge it as a whole at the moment, and also it makes it feel like less of an event because it is so spread out.
I think that's my sort of issue with most of the box sets. It sort of depends on how the second box set turns out for it to be properly judged. Like Doctor of War, Water Worlds, and 40 itself as well. Because 40 sort of left us not lukewarm, but I think we expected something a little bit different.
I mean, that was the beginning of the main Ranger, wasn't it? That was, I think, 6 months ago exactly. That came out on the 4th of January, I believe.
Wow, well, it's very fitting.
Yeah.
But we're doing it now. One thing what you mentioned last night is about the Doctors. Which Doctor has fared the best in the relaunch so far? Should we have a little chat about that?
Yeah, so like thinking which one's the most improved, I guess, from the pre-relaunch era, and which ones perhaps are the least, not least improved, but like have suffered the most, I guess, because of it, or maybe doing a bit better before, we feel.
If we sort of break it down Doctor by Doctor, or just how we feel at the minute with it?
I suppose, should we go Doctor by Doctor, I guess?
Yeah, let's do that. So first Doctor, recast Stephen Noonan, Lauren Cornelius. So there's a big change with that because it's season 3. We're after the Savages. So I think that there was a lot of potential there for the relaunch to, dive in with it.
It's rather a blank slate, isn't it, with Dodo?
Yes.
So there's definitely a lot of room for them to really leave their own mark with these characters.
Like, we got a snippet with Secrets of Death Sen, and I think that was a good little tease in a way.
Yeah. I mean, for me, with the first Doctor, I'm loving what Stephen Noonan's doing. And I think the stories in the set are both pretty good. But then I think back to the quality of what we were getting before, like you say, Secrets of Death Sen and the that's Hollow Crown last year, and I think the first Doctor was actually doing pretty well before this anyway.
Hmm.
So it doesn't feel like this is a great improvement on the quality of stories as such. It just feels more like a nice way to push forward. It feels like there's more of a direction for the first Doctor now, I suppose.
Yeah, they're
And
carving into sort of unknown territory with the first Doctor in that way.
yeah, and I
What they
suppose
haven't
with
done
the
before.
Outlaws as a release, even though I have my issues with the stories, I still see a lot of potential in this range, a lot of potential in Stephen Noonan and Lauren Cornelius as Dodo, what they can do with them going forward. And I think that's what excites me most, because we've seen what they've done with Tim Treloar as the Third Doctor. We've seen how far he's come since Volume 1 of the Third Doctor Adventures and how much we are really loving him now. And
Hmm.
really just see him as equal to Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, really, don't we? And so on.
I think that's
So
all thanks to Legacy of Time, isn't it? Really, that made them up his box sets to two a year, which is wonderful. I'm sure we'll talk about Tim in a minute.
yeah,
Because
now
you
he's
can't,
getting involved in Classic Doctor's New Monsters as well.
which I think such a lovely way of championing Tim. Where he's done his own work, and now he can play with the big boys. Now I think that's such a
Yeah,
lovely little thing.
yeah, and I mean, I look forward to. I think hopefully it doesn't take them as long to really involve Stephen Noonan in that as well. Because I think with Tim, that was like 2014 or 15. I can't remember quite which. But they were a bit more hesitant on how to do with the recasting of a Doctor, whereas now they've been there, done that before. They know not to sort of try to play both sides. They know just to go full in on this is a recast, deal with it now.
Yeah, I feel like Tim was the experiment because you first box set you had the narration, and then they listened for we don't want the narration in the set, we just want classic authentic for Doctor Tales.
Yeah. I think Tim walked so that Stephen Noonan and Michael Troughton could run.
Oh yeah, I think every recast since Tim and I think Elliot Chapman as well, that they've laid down the foundations for the big finish we know and experience now.
And I think they ultimately sum up like both sides of the Tim and Elliot Chapman were sort of drifting off from the
Yeah,
relaunch now because Elliot Chapman sadly is no longer playing Ben. But you sort of have the two sides of a recast there. You have the one with Elliot Chapman that is just pitch perfect, sounds almost indistinguishable from the original. And you still get a good amount of character there as well. Like he's put in the work on the character too. But then with Tim, you have one that is slightly different. You do have to adjust to him a bit more, but he really gets the character there. And
yeah.
so that's the main thing. And that's what you hear behind that. Obviously, his voice is similar at the same time, but it's thanks to the performance and the character that you forget it's not quite Pertwee.
And it's quite stark when you listen to the first bits we got of Tim to where we are now. Like he is just he's nailing it now. And I remember back in the day going, well, can't we have double Tim? So the more he does, the better he's going to get. And yeah, he's at that point now where he is. It's eerie. There are stories where I'm like, that's John.
Mm. I mean, same with all the recasts alongside him, like Daisy Ashford as Liz, Sadie Miller as Sarah Jane, and of course John Coleshaw as the Brigadier, doing a wonderful job there.
I mean, we've gushed over the Third Doctor range. How is he
Yeah.
faring in the relaunch? Just to get it back on the relaunch side of
Yeah.
things.
I mean, I'd say he's doing pretty well from the relaunch. I wouldn't say he's benefited that much from it, just because he was doing pretty well beforehand anyway. And he was also already in box sets before that, so it's not too much of a change for him so far as we've seen. But it's sort of opened the doors a bit more because we've got a 7-parter now. We're no
Yes.
longer trapped with just 4-parters. That's the main benefit for the Third Doctor, I'd say. And so it's just it feels like a natural progression from where he was at before. It doesn't feel like a course correction at all. It just feels like the next logical step to take the Third Doctor in following his first 8 box sets.
Yeah, because I feel like Tim last year just really excelled. Like Volume 7 was my favorite release of last year. Volume 8, I still enjoyed, but it was a bit of a dip. And then Annihilators was very much sort of the same level, I'd say. I enjoyed it a lot because of that format change. And I think that's what made it exciting and appealing, going, how are they going to do a 7-parter? And now we've got the relaunch. I think the main structure of a Pertwee era was a 6-parter. So I think the next exciting thing for the Third Doctor range is give us a 6-parter, possibly the Master. I think that would be another pull-in factor.
Yeah. I mean, it's looking like it's either Liz or Sarah in October's box set. And I'm happy either way there, because on the podcast, Nick Briggs said about how part of the reason he cast Katie Manning in Beyond War Games as the Ice Warrior Queen there is because he knew he wasn't going to get to work with her on the Third Doctor Adventures this year. So, But yeah, I'd say it just feels like the right next step for Tim as the Third Doctor.
Yeah.
And I think also what's good about the Third Doctor Adventures is it feels like they know how to mix things up and push things further before they go stale. They're not waiting for it to run dry before they mix things up again. They're mixing it up and adding it in while it's still fresh to keep it fresh.
Yeah, because I think that was the wonderful thing with Conspiracy in Space. Even though we're not a big fan of that story, it was nice to have Joe in between that sort of sandwich of 2 Sarah releases. But you didn't get fatigued by Sadie and Tim. Not that we could, because it's exciting to hear that pairing, because season 11's very underutilized in expanded media.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think having a season 10 story as well after we'd had a lot more Earthbound stuff with the Third Doctor and Joe was a nice little change there.
And I just think so much time and effort's been put into that range with the little sound effects, the music. I feel like that is
the most authentic.
It is the most authentic, and it's when Big Finish talk about recreating an era, I instantly think of the Tim stuff, because it just goes so hard on going, this is Barry Letts, Terrence Dicks Doctor Who.
Yeah, I think that's something that they've also done with the first Doctor very well. It's sort of like, it's almost the compensating for the fact that it's a different actor by making the stories feel even more authentic. Whereas with, say, Colin Baker in particular, they've pushed him far out of his era's feel and very much defined his Doctor with his own style and era on Big Finish, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, Third Doctor stuff, we're big fans, and I think that it's safe to say that the Annihilators are going to be on the top 5.
We shall see just where it lands very soon. But yeah, seeing a good amount of love for Tim in the chat there from Ben Miller and Harry064.
Rightly so.
Yeah. I mean, we could kind of talk about the second Doctor as well in a way, because even though Beyond War Games isn't out yet, it's like the second half of the year, he did make an appearance in the Annihilators, and so we have got an idea of where he's going to go. We also got the second Doctor Companion Chronicles set. So I mean, early impressions of how the second Doctor's being treated in the relaunch.
That was the first thing that was teased in that initial release, wasn't it? But we're going to go beyond War Games, explore season 6B. So I think when that was announced, that was where all the focus was at. Like, everyone wants this release. And I think from what I've heard from the little teaser from the podcast, I'm really excited by it.
Yeah, same here. I think particularly for the second story, Wrath of the Ice Warriors, I'm hoping for that to be very authentic to the 60s by Andrew Smith there, whose favourite Doctor is the second Doctor, and like that's his favourite era apparently. So I hope he can do a good job of recreating that feel of Web of Fear and Invasion, only with the Ice Warriors here.
I think it's gonna be a bit like the Outlaws in the sense that you have sort of a traditional story, like Wrath of the Ice Warriors will be like the Outlaws, and then the Miniaturist will be like the final end or whatever the first story's called. That
Yeah.
bit of experimental release, really.
Yeah, it's like the same again, but switched around a bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just curious to know how they're gonna fit, 4-parters. That's
Yeah.
the curious thing.
I'd say when it comes to relaunch as well, giving each Doctor their own series of box sets, I think it's something that the second Doctor's probably needed for a while now. We just haven't realised because
Yeah.
he's the only Doctor not to really have his own range. Like the first Doctor with David Bradley has had his own range, but the second Doctor's just sort of been sharing with the first Doctor in the early adventures and the Companion Chronicles, really. And so it's nice to now have him standing shoulder to shoulder with the other Doctors in that sense.
And I think as well, we've been lacking a lot of second Doctor content because I think in 2020 we only had like the short trip.
Yeah, we really have.
So it feels like a big occasion having, much like McCoy returning in Silver and Ice. We didn't get much McCoy during the pandemic because he was off in France, I think, living. So he wasn't able to get around here to record.
Yeah.
So I think,
I mean, last year we only had his cameo in End of the Beginning, didn't we?
yeah. So it feels good to finally get some sort of a new. I think that's the thing. What I'm most loving about the relaunch, it's tapping into areas what we haven't explored in Big Finish's history, really. And I feel like there is, especially with Beyond War Games, I feel like there is a bigger picture, what's being crafted out, and we're at the start of this journey now.
Yeah, I think it definitely feels like they've got a plan there with that.
And it almost makes you think that were they hinting it back in Colony of Fear?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine so.
Are we going to get repercussions from that? Who knows?
Yeah, so I suppose next up is the fourth Doctor, really, who sort of hasn't been affected as much because of how far in advance they plan and record these stories with Tom Baker. They wouldn't have necessarily known this was going to be part of the relaunch when they did a lot of this stuff.
We've just been given a little extra story, like peak season is it this year, and I think we're getting another one next year.
Ghost of Margaret, I believe.
So that's nice.
Yeah, it's nice to get something extra for the same price as well.
I know it sort of makes sense to get the box set, even if you just want the odd story. It just makes to get the whole box set, It's like a little freebie in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose the other change is that he's got subtitles for each box set now. Like got Solo and the 9.
It does make you think when they realise when the relaunch was coming together, when they're like, oh, how are these stories going to knit together? Like, Solo works because it's the fourth Doctor traveling solo, but then the second set doesn't quite work with like the subtitle, does it?
Because the
the
9's
nine's
only in.
Yeah, because I think David Richardson wanted to call it Still Solo, which it makes sense in the grand scheme of what Series 11 are going for. But I'm just trying to think thematically what would have worked for a title for that second set.
Yeah, because they are all quite different, aren't they?
Mm.
So unless you do something like where you've got Silver and Ice, where the Silver is the first story and then the Ice is the second story on Reboss, unless you did something like that.
Mm.
Because I mean, River Song Series 10 is called Two Rivers and a Firewall, and that's like the first episode and last episode. So, that's probably something that could have been done.
Yeah, there's probably something clever we're missing it.
Yeah. The Fifth Doctor.
He doesn't feel like he's part of the relaunch because I feel like 40 feels like a celebratory release, and it feels like a little bonus.
I mean, it was like announced separately as well. We had details of that before we got the full relaunch stuff, and it was sort of unclear whether or not this was the Fifth Doctor's relaunch box sets or this was its own little celebratory thing on the side.
because I feel like conflicts of interest feels more like this is the beginning of the Fifth Doctor's relaunch, and I think the Fifth Doctor, he sort of had his relaunch with Mark. I think it would have probably been beneficial to start the Mark stuff when the relaunch come along, actually, because the format was there. You had the double bills, but then we would have lost the individual cover art.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I think,
in a way, we didn't have individual cover art anyway because it was double bill, so it's like 2 stories anyway.
yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean. We'd still have lost out on some cover art.
So I think that the Fifth Doctor's, I don't want to say gone down, but I think that from where the Mark stuff finished, I thought the Fifth Doctor was in a real good place. Even like the main range stuff, like the Blazing Hour, really strong stuff. Again, like I said earlier, it depends how Autumn Infinity sort of gels that story together, really.
Yeah. Because I think with the Fifth Doctor, he had Scott Hancock producing, didn't he, for that, like
Yeah.
the Mark stuff, and then until the end of the main range. And I feel like he really added something to the Fifth Doctor.
I think
That
it was
now the Fifth
exploring.
Doctor sort of feels on the same level as a lot of other Doctors.
Yeah, because I think because what Scott Hancock was tapping into in the Fifth Doctor era was like, this is a gold mine for the Fifth Doctor's character. Let's carry on.
Now it feels like you're retreading the same ground again with Adric. It's doing it in a
Yeah,
different way, but it almost feels too soon after the Lost Resort.
yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah. It feels like because it's meant to be a jumping on point, they've sort of wiped the slate clean and gone, right, what would be a good place to start anew with the Fifth Doctor?
And
But for people who are listening to what's come before then going into this, it feels a bit like, there was a lot of good work going on there that's now been pushed aside to just redo it in a different way.
yeah, because I think the relaunch was made for like to get new people on board by not tying them down to ongoing story arcs like the main range had towards like the latter days in the range itself. Whereas I feel like you're gonna get the same problem with the box sets eventually, you know?
Yeah, but I said then they just do another relaunch of sorts, don't they,
Yeah.
to start it all off again.
Yeah, just an endless cycle at this point.
Yeah. But I suppose like the good part about this is that it's more easier to pick a jumping on point. Whereas before with the main range, you had like release number 259 or something, and you're wondering, as like a new potential customer of Big Finish, there is a lot of a barrier there to entry when you're
Yeah.
looking at where to start. Whereas now you just sort of like pick a Doctor, then pick a box set, and hopefully you're good to go.
I think for the most part it works fine, you know.
Mm.
'Cause I think it does I think giving the box sets their own little subtitle does give them their own sort of distinct flavour,
Yeah.
really.
I do wonder what they're going to do with Autumn Infinity though, like because obviously 41 is just called 40 on the cover and the spine.
Yeah.
So like, is it going to be 40 as well? But then obviously the number at the bottom will be 2, and that's the way it distinguishes it, or is it going to just be called the Autumn Infinity? Maybe.
I mean, as you can see from the picture, I don't really think there's not a consistency with Big Finish spines. They try, and you think it's going so well, and then they throw a curveball and just throw it off. Like it's weird how some releases do get the numbers.
Yeah, First Doctor and 40, and like, is that number for 40 itself? Is that just going to be on 41 and 42, and then Conflict of Interest won't have a number, or is this, number one of all Fifth Doctor adventures going forwards?
I mean, where does the Fifth Doctor box set go then? You know,
Yeah,
with Psychodrome and Iterations of I.
because that's like retroactively been renamed. What's Fifth Doctor Adventures Volume 1, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
So will conflict of interest be 3 or 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 4.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I'm getting a bit of a headache now from just thinking
Yeah.
about it and where to put it on the shelf.
Yeah, aspect. Shall we move on from that headache and talk about the Sixth Doctor instead now with Waterworlds?
Yes, go on, go on.
I feel like he might be the Doctor who suffered the most from the relaunch. Like, he was doing very strongly in 2020. I think back to stories like The Cry of the Vulturess, Scorched Earth, uh, Plight of the Pimpernel. Two of those
Lovecraft
by
Invasion.
two
Yeah.
of those by the brilliant Chris Chapman. And I mean, you had the Sixth Doctor and Perry box set there as well, which more of a mixed bag, but when it hit with something like the Vanity Trap, it really hit. I don't feel like, and the Sixth Doctor, he's had so much stuff this year, not just with Waterworlds, but Doctor of War. He's appeared in Peladon. He had Mind of the Hodiak. And just out of all of those, I don't think he's had a banger.
Like there was promise in Rotting Deep, and I was like, okay, this is starting off well because like the golf in the third Doctor Adventures was such a good sort of water story, and I think by the end of Waterworlds, you're kind of a bit pig sick of Waterworlds, just that whole concept.
Yeah, like, especially because the last two feel a bit more similar than perhaps they should.
Now I like Hebe. I love Hebe.
Yeah, Heavy's off to a great start, and I think the whole character interactions between the Doctor, Mel, and Hebe, them as a trio, and then when they split them off as well, I'm enjoying all that side of things. It's more just the stories themselves that let down and make me feel less inclined to revisit the box set.
I think the way the Rotting Deep finishes, you feel like, oh, it's a nice little nod back to where the Sixth Doctor began at Big Finish to this new direction. But sadly, I don't quite get what this new direction is. I know we're only like 3 stories in, and we've got the second book's out in August. But reading those synopses, it just doesn't get me. Oh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, it does feel like we do have more of a direction, at least with Hebe now. Whereas with Flip and Constance, for example, it felt like there was no real plan there. They didn't really know what they were doing with them. So sometimes they were trying to get Flip back to her wedding. Sometimes they were trying to get Constance back to her life. Other times Constance was fine and seemingly moved on from her life, because I thought we wrapped all that up in Quicksilver, but apparently not. So it all just it feels like they didn't quite know what they wanted to do with them characters. But at the same time, the stories were still much stronger. So it's like we've swapped round now. We've got more of a clear direction of character, at least at the moment. But the story quality is not quite there still. Because, there's nothing on the level of what we were getting in 2020.
Do you think it's because it's 2-parters and I feel like there's so many characters going on now? I don't know.
I'm not so sure. So I feel like they can work in 2-parters. I think Rotting Deep mostly does work well as a 2-parter.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be honest, they're quite chunky 2-parters in Waterworlds. And I felt like the other two were dragging anyway.
Yeah.
So I was happy not to have those as 4-parters. But what about you? Do you feel like you prefer more 4-parters with the Sixth Doctor?
I think so. I think Colin benefits the longer stories, just because it gives each character their own thing to do. I think that's why I really liked Lost Resort out of the Lost Resort and other story set, because it was just it balanced every character, and I think that you kind of needed that in that set, especially establishing Hebe. Especially like I feel like Rotting Deep works as a 2-parter. The second story should have been a 4-parter. So you've got time to really play with that TARDIS dynamic. You know?
Yeah, I could see that.
And I think for me, I don't know if this is personal preference as well, but I naturally prefer the 4-part stories to the 2-parters. Because I guess it's the traditional classic Doctor Who, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. It puts you in that mindset a bit more.
And I just feel like you're getting more bang for your buck there. I don't know.
Yeah, although in some ways you're getting more stories when it's 2-parters. And
Yeah.
sometimes, like, I mean, imagining a lot of these two-parters are going to be of comparable length to the four-parters we're going to get in Beyond War Games, because they're squeezing that onto 3 discs. So they'll
Yeah.
probably be much shorter parts. Yeah,
But then
no-
that's like a good thing in a way, because it makes you feel like you're flying through that release, because it's just a short little runtime then.
yeah, it definitely helped Annihilators.
Yeah.
That's great. Shall we move on to our next Doctor now? Doctor number
Yeah, let's do that.
7, as McCoy calls him on the extras.
Yeah, moved away from old 60.
Yeah, and this is the grand return for the 7th Doctor, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been a while, and so it's nice to have him back. And I did really enjoy the first story. I think it's hard to tell this as much of a direction at the moment, though, when it comes.
Well, we've got
'Cause it
hints
is
of
just
like the last days, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, but we don't know quite when we're getting that. I mean, we have got a title for the next box set. I think we'll probably talk about that with the news, won't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we know what's coming of sorts for the 7th Doctor. But it just feels like separate stuff, really. And I think at the moment it's hard to judge based off one box set, because I really enjoyed one story and struggled a bit more with the second story, the Rebos Inheritance.
I think having 7th Doctor and Mel felt like a good thing to kickstart, because it's like that's where the 7th Doctor began, and it's
It
been a
brings you
while
back
since we've
to how they relaunched the main range after 200th release, doesn't it?
yeah. And I think that was the last time we just had 7th Doctor and Mel back in 2015, so it felt
Yeah,
like
would have
long
been.
overdue. I think as well, going back to Colin quickly, it was nice just to have Mel, 6th Doctor and Mel together.
Yeah, it was nice at first, but then she just seemed to be popping up all over the place, and
Yeah, it's the year of Bonnie Langford as well as
tired.
Colin.
Yeah, very much so. But I think, do you enjoy Mel more with the 7th or the 6th, do you think?
I think from the releases so far this year, just going off this year, I think 7.
I agree. Before that, I might have said 6, but I'm not too sure now. I think certainly I enjoyed her a lot more in Silver and Ice than I did in any of the 6th Doctor sets.
Yeah, because like Paladin, I can't remember much, and then Mind of the Hodiak, it has that sort of classic season 22 feel, in the sense that it's just Doctor and Companion in TARDIS console room for majority of first part. So
Yeah.
and then Waterworld, you've got the addition of Hebe as well, so you don't kind of get those moments between Doctor and Mel as much. So I
You get
think
Mel treated a lot more modern when she's got Hebe there as well. So I suppose with Hebe being a modern day companion, that's now the point of view of the listener, and so it becomes much more contemporary. We're assuming she's modern day. They haven't given an exact date yet, but she's certainly from later on than the 80s. Yeah. Whereas when you've got Silver and Ice, that feels more contemporary to the 80s, because Mel is your only companion there, so it feels like that window from the 80s point of view, and a bit more authentic to the era.
And I think A Bad Day in Tinseltown, just it gets the tone of season 24, so it feels like, well, we've not really dabbled into like the more fun side of season 24 on audio. So I think that was a nice little change for it, really.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with Bad Day in Tinseltown. It was just a lot of fun, and I feel like I haven't had that with the relaunch in a little while.
Yeah, I feel like there's a certain point in the year I'm like, I've really been enjoying this sort of what they've been doing with the stories. Then after that point, I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know if the relaunch has kind of made me fall out a bit of Big Finish, or whether get Big Finish fatigue.
Yeah,
Because there's been certain releases this year where I've been like, normally when a release drops, I'm like, I've downloaded it, I'm ready to listen to it, ready for bed. But there's been releases this year where I'm like, I'll leave it for a minute,
Yeah, I think a lot of the time as well, because there's so much output now. It's like a release will drop, and we'll be like, I still haven't finished the last one
Yeah,
yet, and
yeah,
so you
because
end
I've
up with a
not
backlog
finished.
there. Yeah.
I've not finished McCoy, and yet Beyond War Games is probably going to be pushed forward because I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes things just have to take a hit, don't they? And I mean,
Yeah.
Eighth Doctor, there's not too much to say yet because he's not properly started at all yet. We don't get him until November. Like with Stranded 4, it was more just wrapping up the previous era of Eighth Doctor.
The box set saga, really. Well, I say box set saga, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like the 16 hour.
Yeah,
16 hours.
yeah. Before we get into more standalone stuff going forward,
which I'm very excited for. I know that's a future point in this stream.
Yeah, Stylish One asks favorite and least favorite covers from the relaunch. And I think, should we go on 3, 2, 1 for our favorite? Because I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. The Annihilators.
Annihilators.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, that is definitely the top tier of them. As for least favorite, which one would you say is yours?
I would like to say Waterworlds.
Really?
From the relaunch.
Are we going from so far?
I was going from January to June.
January to June. Yeah, I'd probably say Waterworlds as well then. I was thinking the next Purity Undreamed, the next Sixth Doctor cover, I feel like is a step down again from Waterworlds. I don't mind Waterworlds so much now.
Out of the covers we've got out of this bunch on the screen, I think that's probably my least favourite.
Yeah, I'd agree there.
Because I don't feel like you get a flavour of the stories. You get an octopus, and that's about it. And there's Hebe, you know.
Yeah. At least there's more of a flavour there. And I like the it's that watercolour vibe of it, which suits it being a Waterworlds.
That nice watercolour, yeah.
Selection, yeah. But yeah, definitely comparing it to Silver and Ice, 40, Solo, etc. It's not quite on that level. And I think also we're just a bit fatigued with that cover style, sadly.
Yeah, because it's a great style. And I think it works for like War Doctor Begins and the Ordo novels because of like the limited resources.
Yeah, it just feels a bit overused at this point and often quite bland in the composition, sadly. But then you have some bangers like Scourge the Cybermen.
Yeah, and Doctor of War, the first box set, Fortune Fire. I love that cover.
Oh, the War Doctor Begins.
Yeah,
because we also have the same artist doing Doctor of War covers.
Yeah.
It all gets a bit confusing, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I suppose it's now the time to dive into the top 5 itself.
Yeah, let's dive into that. So I shall move this banner away and stop sharing the old screen and get the old banners up ready. So I guess it's top 5 time.
Yeah, let's go for it. Who's going to start?
I'll let you start.
Okay. And was that a drum roll there?
It was just me banging on the share button. I can do that.
Well, for my 5th place, I have gone for quite a recent one, actually.
Okay.
I've gone for Shell Shock.
Okay.
I've cheated a little here because this is separate from. This is a separate download available. So even though the other stories in the 9 as a box set, Dreams of Avarice and Peak Season aren't quite enough to make me want to put the whole box set on the top 5. I felt like Shell Shock was a good enough story on its own to be worthy of being put on the top 5. And because it is available separately, I feel like we can cheat a little and allow this because it is technically its own release as well as being part of a box set.
Is this where I say it's on my list as well?
Ah, really? But not at number 5.
It's not at number 5 for me.
Right. Well, I mean, shall we save talking about that for when we get to it on your list.
Yeah,
Then. But I will say,
yeah. I guess it makes sense just to have like a bit of a group discussion on it. I think we're gonna have a bit of crossover with a few other releases. I feel.
yeah. Shall we? Let's see what your number 5 is then.
I'm a big fan of underdogs releases and supporting them. So my number 5 is the Outlaws.
Ah,
I had a real good time with them, and I think it was one of those box sets where I could happily binge it. I think the Outlaws itself was such a joy. It was a nice mix of the Time Meddler meets the Crusade. Just seeing Stephen Noonan find his feet, and as the story progresses, him just getting all the little mannerisms. It's a story you can easily visualize within it. I think, shock horror. I liked Rufus Hound's monk within it. I think that when you get sort of the scenes between the Doctor and Rufus Hound, the monk itself, they're just electric and great scenes, and there is this sort of nice. It's just a nice, fun listen because it's played for comedy, but there is a darker undertone, like the massacre when you sort of get to part 4, when you get sort of the French soldiers up to attack the Lincoln Castle, really. But I think the one what stands out for me, and the reason why I think it's probably on this list, is the Miniaturist. It's a chunky boy. Part 1 I think is like 36 minutes.
yeah, it is about.
It doesn't have a title sequence, so you naturally feel thrown off by it, and that really aids this really creepy atmospheric start. It plays with like that traditional horror in the form of here's this giggling little kid, and it fits in with what the Troughton era did with putting the Doctor in how they imagine the future. The sort of the Miniaturist is a great little villain, very much the style of a Celestial Toymaker. It's that fun, experimental story what puts this box set on the map for me.
Yeah, I will say it's not part of my top 5,
Okay.
but it was going to be one of my honorable mentions there, because I think had this been maybe a top 6 or top 7, it would have been squeezed on, because I did really enjoy the set. It's like carried a lot by just the authentic vibes of the 60s, Stephen Noonan giving it his all with that wonderful first Doctor performance. But I do feel like the stories aren't quite there. They're very good, but they're not great. So it didn't quite make it onto my top 5 for that reason.
That's fair enough. But yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's. Oh, go on.
You're going to regret saying you like Rufus Hound now, because Stylish Person is in the chat saying Ben liked Rufus Hound. Brilliant.
We'll see when we take a look at the black hole whether that love still continues.
Yeah. Hot take from Stylish Person. Rufus Hound as the monk is better than any other Renegade Time Lord incarnation. There are lots of other brilliant incarnations, but none of them are as good as him. McQueen Master is close, though. That is certainly a hot take. But yeah,
I mean, we respect all opinions here.
I'm a much bigger fan of Rufus Hound as the monk than Ben is, but I don't think I'm quite on the same level as you there, Stylish Person. But yeah, he has a lot of fun in the role, and I think the Outlaws is definitely a very good outing for him. And when he's bickering alongside the First Doctor, there's something there which just feels so authentic to the 60s, and it really does bring out even more of Hartnell in Noonan's performance when he's getting all agitated by him.
It's the outburst. When you get the outburst of the First Doctor, you're like, that's Hartnell. Because there are moments with this story where I think the thing with Hartnell's voice is there's that sort of tendency to play the crotchety old man. You forget there's a twinkle and a lightness to it. And I think Peter Purves gets that sort of twinkle. And I think Stephen Noonan's going for more of that varied performance, because the performances in The Outlaws is night and day compared to The Miniaturist. It's a very different performance.
I think there's a difference between the way we imagine William Hartnell's voice being and the way it actually is when you watch the stories or listen to like the surviving audios. yeah, I think Stephen Newton, you could very much imagine the mannerisms as well in his performance. Like when he's doing those giggles, you can imagine him like putting his lip up to his finger up to his lip.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I guess that's
great stuff.
5 done.
Yeah, now we're on to number 4.
Bum.
Ooh, nicely
So
done.
I've tried to be a bit technical tonight because I know it's a big one.
Yeah, hopefully it makes things clearer as well for those who are
Yes.
joining part of the way through, so you know what we're talking about.
Where we're at.
Yeah.
Do you want to take it away?
At my number 4, I have gone for a Ninth Doctor set, and it
Okay.
is Back to Earth, a recent one.
Snap.
There we are.
Yeah. Number
I think
4, Back to Earth's mine as well.
Station to Station is absolutely brilliant, isn't it? That is in the top 3 of the individual stories for this year, to be honest.
Yeah, I think if Station to Station was a single release, I feel like it would be number 1 place for me.
Oh, that high.
I had maybe because I listened to it on a train and it felt very much like I'm having the ultimate experience of this story. It's set at a train station. It felt like I was in that adventure, really.
Yeah.
I
It
think the
does.
concept is brilliant that if you're stranded on a station you don't know, there's this creature, the Grimly Groo lurking. It is wonderful.
Yeah. It taps into a very familiar experience I think a lot of us have if we've been like regular commuters at any point in our life. You know, that one where you're stuck somewhere late at night and you know, because stations are quite brightly lit, it's like a black void just beyond.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't know quite when your next train's coming. There's all like that nervousness of will I make it back home in time or wherever I'm going in time. And it just taps into something very visceral there, I feel, and is such a brilliantly written story, wonderful character piece. So many great characters throughout, and a fantastic villain for Christopher Eccleston to go up against, unlike anything he ever faced on
I think
TV.
that's a wonderful thing about this story because the Ninth Doctor isn't a doctor of words like the 11th Doctor. The Ninth Doctor is not a doctor of monologues, whereas you've got the Grimly Greaves very much playing with like nursery rhymes and that sort of thing, where it's quite wordy. So having this sort of no nonsense Doctor trying to get through this sort of sing songness of the creature, it works so well.
Yeah, it's very true.
And I think the story, just the way I pictured it in my head, it felt very much. It feels like a series opener. What this story is a series opener. The music sort of has a sort of same feel to like Westminster Bridge. You can imagine sort of the BBC ident appearing as like the tube train just departs the station or something like that, like a close up of it. I just feel like it feels very, very authentic to the 2005 Doctor Who feel.
Yeah, but without feeling like it's pastiching any particular story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much its own thing, but also it's got that right flavour of the time. And also a good bit of Sapphire and Steel in there, I'd say as well.
Mm.
It's definitely got that quality to it.
And I think that this set as a whole explores the theme of humanity, and I think that this one explores humanity the most. Because I think Old Lang Syne's very much, I want to say the heart of this set in a way. But I think that this is sort of Station to Station is like the collectiveness of why humanity is great and not stupid apes.
Yeah. It's like very much about human connection in particular, isn't it?
Mm.
And like humans working together and just strangers joining forces, really.
Yeah.
Whereas with Old Lang Syne, that's people who know each other already. That's like this family that's already formed. And so it's like about humanity in a different way. And yeah, Old Lang Syne is another brilliant story. It's not quite on the level of Station to Station for me, but I did have a really good time with that one. It's really interesting, really different from anything on TV once again, but still has that same authentic feel to it. wonderful characters. Christopher Eccleston on top form as always. It's just the false Dimitri that drags this set down and doesn't quite allow it to be any higher than number 4 for me.
Yeah, very much the same. I feel like the false Dimitri's a fine story. It's just kind of there, and I think because it's sandwiched between two belters, it does let the side down.
Yeah. I think it's very
it's
much
not.
a check your watch one while listening to it,
Yes,
sadly.
because I think when this came out, people were praising, Old Lang Syne for get the tissues ready, because you're gonna cry, and it definitely has that gut punch. Whereas I feel like False Dimitri's just kind of here's a fun little sci-fi trying to riff off sort of iRobot in a way. Like there's a solid concept within there, sort of exploring like the false Dimitris of Russia. But I think we've had a better Russia bizarre story in the form of Last of the Romanovs.
Yeah. I think we've said that this style of this idea, this part of history is almost more interesting. Like the actual historical telling is more interesting than this story, sadly. The idea of these different people all claiming to be the Tsar of Russia.
Yeah, but I think Old Lang Syne feels like it's going to be a story I'm going to revisit closer to the end of the year. Because it's sort of it's got such a heart to it, that story. And I think that it I guess it fits the time of year for like New Year's. I feel like maybe this is just me. I get quite depressed on New Year's because I'm like, what have I done this year? And you're like, it's another year I'm closer to dying. And I think that it fits that, but it's not depressing to it, but it kind of fits that sort of feel you have for New Year's.
Yeah, definitely. It takes you back to being younger in some ways as well.
Yeah.
Family gatherings as such. I mean, maybe that's just for us, and some people do have family gatherings every year still.
But it's very much
it feels
remembering.
Bigger when you're younger.
Yeah, it feels more of an event because you're staying up late.
Mm.
But I think it becomes quite self-reflective in the sense of you remember the people in the years gone by of who's not there with us anymore, who was there with us years before. You know, I think that it's quite a touching one and sort of a nice tribute to the people who are not with us anymore. You know.
Yeah, agreed. I think so. Old Lang Syne would probably we'd praise it even more if it wasn't in a box set with Station to Station, because that one really blew us away.
Yeah.
And so this one I felt like would be an absolute, it'd be the top of almost any other set if it wasn't for Station to Station being there.
Yeah.
So definitely, it's worth picking up Back to Earth, even though the False Dimitri isn't that great. I think what you get with the other two stories more than makes up for it.
Yeah, it's a belter.
Shall we move on to number 3?
Yeah, let's do that.
And have we already brought up your number 3 by any chance?
We have.
Yeah. Shall we talk about Shell Shock then?
Yes.
Or we reveal my number 3?
Yeah. Do you want to start?
Shell Shock is a brilliant atmospheric Fourth Doctor story. It very much gets that Hinchcliffe vibe while also mixing in a good bit of Quatermass as well. But in its own it's very much Quatermass in the Pit, but in its own very different way. And so I love the setting of World War One. I think it's a brilliant place to set stories in. And so it's got that War Games vibe to it where the Doctor is accused of being a spy by pretty much both sides and is caught in the middle of this strange alien plot. I love the alien menace within this and the concept of it being almost more of a impulse than an actual malevolent thinking threat.
Just the idea of it being in no man's land as well.
Yeah.
Is so good.
It gives you so many interesting visuals to play with in your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, like just part 1 with like this sort of medical facility where you have soldiers being treated for shell shock, You get these. I wouldn't say conscientious objectors, but you get somebody who's very much anti-war in a way, being processed and ready to fight. It utilizes the Revolution war machine, the tanks, as well.
It's quite terrifying as well because it's very much in a situation where no one's really on the Doctor's side for the most part.
Like even like the companion of the week, the nurse character.
Yeah, she was Hannah, isn't it?
Yeah, she's not quite there. She's just like, I'm following you because I feel like I trust you, but there's that edge of I don't quite know why I'm doing this. And I don't know how I should trust you.
Yeah, and it's also like she's putting a lot on the line here by joining this man, because with a lot of companions, they're not necessarily going to get arrested or potentially executed for sticking with the Doctor. They might get killed by the aliens or whatever threat they're going up against alongside it, but there's not like that threat of her life will never be the same again after this, even if they win potentially.
It's just a war on every side they go, and I just like the visuals of the Fourth Doctor and the nurse character just running through no man's land through this sort of obliterated church,
going through the trenches, going like through those tunnels as well.
For me, I feel like I know you're number 3, but for me, I feel like this is the most authentic Hinchcliffe story from Series 11.
Ah, really?
For me, I just think that it just has all the hallmarks of what makes Hinchcliffe really good. Because I feel like Dream of Avarice it felt more the light Graham Williams type Fourth Doctor, which was lovely, but it was a nice sort of contrast having Shell Shock. Going, oh, this is some real nice authentic 70s Doctor Who.
Yeah, it feels like some proper Fourth Doctor, Doctor Who, doesn't it?
And Tom's, especially in part 1, he's loving it, especially when he's it sort of reminds me of the Great War, with how you get McGann sort of being recruited.
Very cheeky, isn't he, with the nurses and such.
And sort of being picked up into a sort
luckily
of facility.
Tom doesn't get a haircut.
No, he doesn't get a buzz cut.
For an in-cut. Interesting cover.
It'd be like that past Doctor Adventure book, Sons of Koresh, where they basically shave Pertwee and Joe's head.
Oh, wow.
Which feels wrong, Pertwee not having his booth on. But yeah, it has that War Games feel to it in a way of like that processing stuff. But again, if it sort of reminds me of No Man's Land because it has a similar concept to Seventh Doctor story. But I like this one more, I feel.
It's definitely going to be one that's going to get revisited. But yeah, so I can see why it's made your number 3 spot. For me, it was just number 5. And my number 3 spot, I think you've already guessed it, haven't you? Do you want to? Let's see if you get it right. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Is it the Ravencliff Witch?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I had a really good time with this one. I feel like maybe Shell Shock does land the ending better than Ravencliff Witch did. I think my one complaint with Ravencliff Witch is that the ending doesn't quite land. But I just love it so much up until then. I think it makes up for it and makes it a bit stronger on the whole. I think they are 2 very close releases together. Same with Back to Earth in between them. I think they are all 3 on a very similar level. But for me, this one does feel a bit more authentic to Hinchcliffe Who, with the power station as such. It has a bit more of that Hand of Fear quality to it in some ways.
Okay.
It's just, the visuals it conjured up in my mind feel more reminiscent of a lot of those modern day Hinchcliffe stories. Whereas I think Shell Shock is very good, but I don't know if there's anything really along those lines in the Hinchcliffe era that I can compare it to. It certainly does fit a similar tone, but for me, I think Ravencliff, which hits it slightly more. Again, it's Nigel Neal, but less so Quatermass, more so the Stone Tape, for example. And it's a very interesting story with a great section of characters. Margaret is wonderful. And like I said, it's more just the mystery of what the witch is and what's going on with this setting that really does grip me. And yeah, I think it is just a wonderful setting for a story. It very much pulls me in.
It
So,
almost has like a bit of horror fan rockness with like the lighthouse stuff as well.
yeah, that's true. But it's like it's got a bit more scope to it. It's not as claustrophobic in that, but it can get quite claustrophobic in some of the nuclear facility scenes.
Especially in like the when they're sort of checking what's going on under like the lower levels of the power base, and you get sort of the first glimpse of the witch. That's very on your edge stuff. But for me, I think I like the Ravencliff Witch. I think it's a banger of a story, but it feels like a bit of a remnant of the Pertwee era. It feels very sort of Claws of Axos with like that power station. It feels like it's a story Hinchcliffe's found in the drawer and was like, oh, we can work with this, which is not a slight on the story because I think it's a real good one.
Yeah, I can perhaps see that, but for me, I think it does have more of a Holmes and Hinchcliffe sensibility to it, I suppose. Whereas Shell Shock feels more like its own thing, but it is very strong nevertheless for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you do have a great sort of nods to Dudley Simpson and Shell Shock. Really, I think the music feels very on point for Shell Shock.
Yeah, I think maybe. Do you prefer Margaret or Hannah?
I see. I've always thought Tom would suit like an older lady companion, so I like Margaret.
Yeah.
I do like Margaret.
I mean, he's had a few like one-off characters, hasn't he, throughout the TV series?
I mean, I always wanted him to be with Liz Shaw's mum from Cloisters of Terror.
Oh, yeah.
Because I thought they were a really good pairing.
Yeah. I can't remember her name.
Dame Emily Shaw, I think it is.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? And she's played by the same actress who plays Queen Victoria.
I think Rowena Cooper.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah. That was almost like our hopes before we really got Liz Shaw recast. Hopefully, Daisy Ashford and Rowena do act alongside each other as mum and daughter at some point.
That'd be lovely. Yeah.
You think they've got them both now working for Big Finish, so be a shame not to make use of the opportunity.
Because I think they did have a trilogy of companion chronicles, what would have had Liz and Dame Emily Shaw together, but the last post was the start of that trilogy. But sadly, Caroline John passed away, so we never got the other two stories. So maybe those scripts are lurking around. Maybe the idea's out there. So maybe that'd be a future Tim Trelaw set. That'd be nice.
Yeah. And greetings and salutations from Stephen Noonan back in the chat. Thank you for joining us, Stephen.
Thank you. Hello.
I'm afraid I'm not sure if you were here a bit earlier, but you've missed Ben's put the Outlaws at number 5 on his list.
It's a very good set. Very promising start to the range.
So, shall we move on to number 2?
Yes, let's do that. Do you want to kickstart?
I feel like we're on the same page again, aren't we?
I feel like we might be.
Yeah. It's another Ninth Doctor one.
Oh, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm a bit different here.
Are we switching on number 2 and number 1 spots, perhaps?
I feel like we have.
I've gone for Old Friends as my... Well, I mean, it's sort of given away because...
Yeah, we've given away.
There's only been 2 Ninth Doctor sets this year, and Back to Earth has already made it on my... Well, both our lists, actually, in 4th spot. But I have put Old Friends at number 2.
Yeah. Whereas, I feel like we've given the game away here. Old Friends is my number 1. Yeah.
And I suppose, does that leave the Annihilators as your number 2 then?
Yeah, the Annihilators is my number 2.
Yeah, I've slotted Annihilators in at my number 1. Yeah, Stephen Noonan says, a little late to this party, but thanks, Ben, for putting us in your top 5. And Luke, I'll take an honourable mention. Yeah, I think it's... I love the potential of the first Doctor Adventures at the moment, and I think if it continues on the trajectory, it'll almost certainly get on the top 5 with whatever's coming in 2023 with the next volume.
And I want more because I just had such a good time with that set. I was just like, I need more of that first Doctor Dodo stuff, really.
Yeah. But yeah, which one are we going to talk about now? Because we've
Oh,
revealed what we've got going on here. I think we've already
yeah,
talked about them both a fair bit on the channel before as well.
yeah.
So
Oh, how do you feel?
should
How do you feel?
we go Annihilators first?
Yeah, let's go
It's your
Annihilators then.
channel. It's your number 2, so we'll save
Okay.
your number 1 for last.
Um, this was a big release because it was a 7-parter. It was the first 7-parter Big Finish did. And it was one of those cheeky ones where you feel like you knew what the story was going for, then you get the little nudge of the second Doctor in there, which is a nice little. By the way, Beyond War Games is happening. Check out that release in July. But I think that it feels very wonderfully authentic to season 7, especially the stuff in the docks. There's a lovely mystery around it, and just how the story loops back from the start is tremendous. And I think this is possibly Fraser Hines' best performance in Doctor Who in general. Really, I just thought he knocked out the park
He gives a
in this
lot
one.
to it, particularly in those later scenes, like in parts 6 and 7 in particular. And I think
And
Tim does a good job as well when he unites with Jamie.
yeah, it's that interesting thing of going, okay, so if Jamie did stay for season 7, this is what it could have been like. And I just sort of like the sort of cross wiring between sort of Liz working out, I know about regeneration that the Doctor can change. So I like how we sort of get to that point of going, hang on, you traveled with the Doctor before. It's all lovely stuff.
Yeah, and Jamie and Liz being together for a fair chunk of it, they are a great combo. They're something that you wouldn't have thought would have worked, but actually they do get along really well.
But then again, you think Zoe's very much of the same ilk in a way.
Bit more of a know-it-all, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, and I suppose as well with the second Doctor in this the season 7 era, he very much suits it. I feel because stories like Web of Fear and The Invasion are sort of like this proto season 7 style to them.
Yeah.
It is an absolute banger, really.
I think as well because it's cramming so much on a disc. The story, it's like what we said earlier, because the parts are so short, it just feels like a breeze when you're listening to it. It's quite a pacey thing. It's quite a punchy story. It's got the action moments. You can picture Havoc being there, doing the big grand things. The sort of slime feels very fitting, like Inferno meets the sort of antimatter from the Three Doctors. It is all good stuff.
Yeah, very much agree.
And just the whole sort of twist of the story as well. I really like the sort of 2 alien races sort of feature in there, sort of how it just flips everything on its head.
Yeah, it's like it's predictable in a way, but not in a way that I mind. I think sometimes you have predictable twists where it's like it's broadcast from a mile away, and it's always like the story itself treats it as this huge reveal when you're like, no, I've worked this out ages ago. You don't have to. It's like you're being talked down to by it. Whereas I don't feel like Annihilators does that. I think even though it does have that twist in there, it doesn't feel like it's going, haha, I got you.
Yeah, I think the Annihilators kind of needs those sort of twists, like you get the arrival of a second Doctor. That's your first sort of change of pace, because you get the first, I think it's over 3 or 4 parts where you sort of get this is traditional season 7 Doctor Who, because you can imagine sort of the graininess of it, really.
You can imagine the film grain with this story. I think it's something I said with the Unzal incursion as well. It just has that very thick season 7 feel to it.
But yeah, really good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, never checked my watch during it, so to speak. Like, even though it is a 7-parter, you don't feel like it drags at any point. If anything, you feel like it could have been longer, really.
You want it to go longer because you're just enjoying what the story's doing, and I think that's a good compliment. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels perhaps the most authentic the Doctor has for a while. But, which is weird because you got the second Doctor there, which wouldn't really have happened in season 7, but nevertheless, it works.
Because there's a part of your sort of fan brain going, no, this is wrong. 3 Doctors is the first time, and it's sacred. But I just had such a good time with it. I'm like, I can happily take this.
And I mean, it's sort of the way the story ends sort of gets around that fan braininess. It allows you to slot in there still.
Yeah. I mean, I like how it all links together, sort of that. Not timey-wimey, but yeah, the gravity of the situation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite timely.
Yes.
Yeah, I suppose. Shall we talk about Old Friends now?
Yeah, should we move on to number one? We do honorable mentions in a minute.
Yeah, your number 1, my number 2. Yeah, good.
This might be the best Ninth Doctor set, I feel.
I agree.
Fond Farewell is so Russell T. The idea of it feels very end of the world. The sort of robot sort of slaves within it, the butlers, they have that gimmicky feel to it. The catchphrase, you can see it being on a T-shirt in Woolworths. It's that kind of feel to it. Yeah, it's a great little mystery.
It's been a while.
You've got me now.
There's definitely a catchphrase there that they say. It's something about dying, isn't it? Or I'm still here. That's it.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, it has the same sort of feel as like, "Hey, who turned out the lights?"
Yeah,
and delete.
Yeah, it's wonderfully thought out there. And it's also just got an interesting message behind it with the idea of who are funerals actually for. Is it for the living or for the dead? Is it like to commemorate the dead, or is it to help the living get over the loss they're suffering? And to have the person who's dead actually attending the funeral through this is a very interesting way to pose that question, I feel. So it's wonderful that it's got that fun Russell T Davies styling to it, but it's also got a message in the same way that a Russell T Davies story would do as well. Yeah, and I love that when a story can make you think.
They're the best type of stories, I feel, because they're the ones what linger with you, I feel. I think sadly in the case of Fond Farewell, it is overshadowed by the main event, which is the Cyberman 2-part with the Brigadier.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us were rushing through Fond Farewell just so that we could get to Way of the Buryman and the 4th generation. But I mean, it's the main event, and it's the reason it's your number 1 spot, isn't it? It's the reason it's my number 2 spot.
Again, it was one I didn't want to end. I was just enjoying the build-up of I like when stories use sort of history and folklore to make something, and just using the Buryman and the actual 4th bridge, and it just fits for Cybermen brilliantly. And there's such a scale to it. It being a 2-parter, it has such a grand scale to it, and it's a wonderful 2-parter. Just having the Ninth Doctor team up with the Brigadier, there's some nice commentary about old soldiers, because obviously the Ninth Doctor's come off the back of the Time War, the Brigadier's retired, so
it's nice to see this much softer side of the Ninth Doctor with the Brigadier, and I think it catches the Brigadier off guard, doesn't it? Like, he's not used to the Doctor being this sentimental.
Yeah, especially the ending is so lovely between those 2 characters.
I mean, speaking of, you mentioned how it's wonderful how it works as a 2-part, and I agree, because it does have quite a few twists as well in it. Like, the Cybermen are coming at some point, so you're wondering how all this is working into it, because it's got quite a lot of different depths to it, really, with this ghost story at first. Then it turns into a bit more of a commemoration of the souls of the 4th. And then you have the horror of the Cybermen coming forward, and then you have the invasion style of it as they launch their attacks. And I think the music really does well there. And there's some wonderful imagery that it evokes in your mind, such as when they are on the seabeds and the
Yeah, can you imagine like the big
lanterns
lamps? Yeah,
yeah,
so good. And
like
it
shining through the dust that's been kicked up off the seafloor.
it's a bit of a shame the cover art didn't use like the new iteration of Cybermen on the cover, the actual 4th generation Cybermen.
Yeah, it's just Creole, really, isn't it? The
Yeah,
Atlassian one.
he's got such a wonderful personality to him.
Yeah, and even
And
he
just
looks too clean on the cover because in the
yeah,
story he's very much meant to be beat up and on his last legs.
I like we even get time to get his backstory of how he got involved in the actual scenario.
Yeah, sort of tying back in with Monsters in Metropolis.
Yeah, so it is wonderful stuff. I think if
Yeah,
you do add Monster in Metropolis as well, you've got a real solid 3 stories there.
you really do. Yeah.
Like I feel like if this was the last Ninth Doctor story we got with Christopher Eccleston on Big Finish, I would be happy to go. That was a lovely way to say that was Eccleston on Big Finish. But thankfully, we've got another set of stories. It's all wonderful, you know.
Yeah, we still got a lot more to come, and hopefully even more after that.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. But I think that was our top 5, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was a bit shocked really. I thought, oh, maybe we'd be the same, but no.
Yeah, I was shocked as well by the top 2 in particular.
I think for me, Old Friends, it just had such a scale to it, an event. There's just something about it. What for me, it just felt right for it to be number 1.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think similar for me. I think Annihilators has that event feeling to it. Feels like something special. 7-parter, both second and third Doctor together. Gotta love season 17 as well. I think overall that just gave it the edge for me. But yeah, I mean, February, what a good month that was. Both our number 1 spot
yeah, it's a good
and number
month.
2 spot technically come from that same
Real
month.
good month. Real good month. I mean, should we do a few honourable mentions?
Yeah, let's go. Should we quickly run through our top 5 again for the
Yes,
benefit
I
of
can do.
Yeah, I'll go first quickly. At 5th place, I had Shell Shock from the recent 4th Doctor Adventures set, the 9. Kind of cheating a bit there, but it's available separately as a download on its own, so it is technically its own release. After that, in 4th place, I had Back to Earth, the more recent 9th Doctor Adventures, a wonderful set. Let down a little bit by the middle story, The False Dimitri, but Old Lang Syne is a brilliant New Year's Day story and wonderfully touching. And then Station to Station is just a banger. That is quite possibly my favourite 9th Doctor story on Big Finish. And after that, in 3rd place, it was another little cheeky 4th Doctor download only one with the Ravencliff Witch. Like, if we had those two, Shell Shock and Ravencliff Witch, on a set together, instead of, say, the way they have divided up, that would be a brilliant set. That might even make the number 1 or number 2 spot then. If those
Whoa.
two were
Okay.
joined forces, perhaps.
Oof.
But sadly, they have been divided up. It's the way with the 4th Doctor Adventures, isn't it? Like last year, Day of the Comet and Tribulations of Thaddeus Nook were probably the 2 strong ones, but they're both on different sets. Let's see. And I mean, it's a way of quite a few Big Finish sets where you have one banger and then another story that's just all right, really. It's just there and it just ends up padding it out. But yeah, in number 2 spot, I went for Old Friends, the 9th Doctor Adventures, as the 9th Doctor reunited with his old friend, the Brigadier, and met some old friends or enemies with the Cybermen.
Which is a nice tie into Dalek, isn't it, really, that line?
Yeah. It's amazing how we never picked up on that beforehand, though, because the
Yeah.
Cyberman reveal was the day of release, wasn't it? But I think
So
because
good.
they gave it to us just before in Monster Metropolis, it never quite clicked for us that the Cyberman will be back here, even though Old Friends is very much a callback to that in the title. But yeah, and then finally, number one spot for me was Third Doctor Adventures, The Annihilators. Brilliant way for the Third Doctor to kick off his part of the relaunch, and also tease what's to come with the Second Doctor. So yeah, take it away with your top 5 then.
My number 5 was the Outlaws, as I am here for the Underdog Rangers, and I want to put a spotlight on it because I had such a good time with it. Again, it was one of those releases I didn't want to end. I was just having such a good feeling, a good vibe with it all. The Outlaws is your nice traditional 60s story, and then you have something like The Miniaturist, where it's sort of like Torchwood meets Doctor Who. In the sort of a tamed down sort of Doctor Who Torchwood style story. Very nice, creepy, experimental story. What if Hartnell's Doctor was in 2019? How the 60s was imagined it. And I just want people to check it out because I think that there's been a lot of work and effort gone down to it with like Stephen Noonan's performance, just the meticulous details of getting the levels of Hartnell's performance are just astonishing.
I think Nick Briggs put it best when he said it's like William Hartnell, but played on a different instrument. It's that same character, that same voice, but just a slightly different tune.
It makes you reevaluate Hartnell's performance because I think, like we said earlier, you have a perception of Hartnell's performance being this quite stern, crotchety old man, but you forget the sort of the variedness of Hartnell's performance. But there is that nice little twinkle to his Doctor, and those softer moments. But yeah, wonderful stuff. My number 4 again was Back to Earth. Sometime we matched with that one, which is nice.
Yeah.
Very much the same.
That was our only match, funnily enough.
Yeah, our only match.
I thought we were getting like more of them there, but
no.
Yeah. I mean, we are mostly the same with our lists, though. There's only one spot that was different, but one release difference.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. We had 4 of the same releases, just different orders. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
So yeah, where was like Station to Station was a tremendous sort of very authentic. I feel like if that was a solo release, that would be number 1 for me. I had such a good time with that one. Very authentic to 2005 Doctor Who, and false. Old Lang Syne has such a wonderful emotional heart to it, and really sort of reflects that reflective side you have at New Year's, where you sort of remember the people who you used to celebrate with. And I think that again, it's a story that makes you think, which is tremendous. And then my number 3 was Shell Shock. For me, it just fits the Philip Hinchcliffe era. Tom's on fine form. The setting of World War One, I think, is just really evocative. Using No Man's Land to its advantage, it's just a strong visual story you can easily imagine. It's sort of being done like it was done in the War Games, and I guess the start of Genesis of the Daleks is sort of that sort of misty warland, Skaro, which is wonderful. My number 2 was The Annihilators. A fun, pacey 7-part story that has plenty of twists and turns to keep you guessing, and it's just another triumph in the Third Doctor range. And my number 1 is Old Friends, a great sort of conclusion to the series 1 of Ninth Doctor Adventures, and a nice little underrated story, Fond Farewell, which I think you shouldn't overlook.
Stephen in the chat has said, by the way, if you're interested, I hope you are. I'm sure we are.
Yeah,
I'm
probably are.
editing recorded conversations Nick and I had in the Genesis of the Outlaws / the Miniaturist. Here's a link to episode 2. I think sadly, because of the way the chat works, it's not actually included the link there, has it?
I mean, I'm sure we can find it.
Yeah, I have had a quick look, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to allow me to put the link out anyway. But yeah, I've got the video up here on Stephen's channel. I wonder if maybe if I put that in the if I put that in our private chat, are you done it? Because I'm assuming it will allow you to put links in.
Yeah, I can try that. I'll copy the link and I'll see if I can put it in the comments now to see if that works. Is that? Oh no, that's chat to actual StreamYard. We don't want to do that.
No.
Hang on. What am I doing? This is the wonders of technology here. Should we do honorable mentions while I try and figure this out?
Yeah, I mean, I already mentioned that one of my honorable mentions was the Outlaws. I suppose it's fitting to talk about that now because I had a good time with that set. Just the pure 60s vibes, but it's going in for that, recreating an era similar to how the Third Doctor adventures started, really. And I think it's probably off to a better start than the Third Doctor event. Well, it's definitely off to a better start than the Third Doctor adventures had. And like we said before, that range sort of warped so that there it is. It's popped up in the
There we
chat
go.
now. You got it there.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'll definitely be having a look at that after this, won't we?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the authentic feeling of the Outlaws in particular, that story. It's just a lot of fun. Rufus Hound as the monk plays brilliantly off Stephen Noonan as the Doctor. They work so well together. You got Lauren Cornelius doing a brilliant job as Dodo as well, who is a bit more of a blank slate as a character. And I think it is just, when you think about it, it's the perfect era to really start off with, because it's much more of a blank slate. So it allows Big Finish to have their own stamp on the first Doctor without having to give him his own companion. Although I wonder if maybe they would do that one day, to get another male companion alongside the two of them in between. But maybe that could work. Although you do have that line about, Stephen would have liked it here, so win the War Games. So it makes it seem like they haven't traveled.
The War
anywhere
Machines.
Since. Oh yeah, War Machines. Sorry, not War Games.
Got War Games on the mind.
Yeah, I wonder why. Yeah, and then The Miniaturist is such a spooky story. It really does put you on edge from the start. And it's very 60s in its experimental nature, but not in the same way as any story on TV was. And I like that. I like when Big Finish is able to evoke the feeling of a TV era without feeling like a pastiche of an existing story. So, yeah, The Outlaws is one of my honorable mentions. Do you want to throw in one of your honorable mentions?
I'm gonna say the Further Adventuresses of Charlotte Pollard.
Really?
It was such a joy of having Paul McGann and India Fisher back together. Just having them back, because that's where I started with Big Finish, listening to that stuff, listening to Storm Warning. And it made me, back in January, revisit the first series of McGann Adventures. And especially The Mommy Speaks, it just feels so bat crazy. And it feels so very fitting of that early Big Finish. And our lovely companion, Guy, the gorilla, who I've seen like a sort of fan cover of the Eighth Doctor cover. Adventures
wonderful.
that
We need Guy the Furler Adventures, don't we?
Again, it's amazing how the gorilla Guy has so much character, but it's only done by just the one sound effect.
Yeah, just like the grunts.
It allows for a wonderful sort of plainness and lightness to McGann's Doctor, what I think we haven't had for many years because of the way we've been progressing with the Eighth Doctor's character. So it's nice to go back to that lover of the universe. I think McGann's that wonderful optimistic. Yeah, he's that wonderful optimistic Doctor about let's see the stars and travel them.
Yeah, and like even in some of the shittier situations, quite literally with what was floating in that river, he still finds joy in it, doesn't he? And he has such a way with words, and it feels poetic. It's very Byron-esque, I suppose. It's very much tapping into that side of the Eighth Doctor in this set, and I think Charlie brings that out wonderfully, being this Edwardian adventuress, and sort of like a bit more of an Aristo in disguise, as they joke about in The Mummy Speaks. She works very well alongside Paul McGann. And I think it's refreshing when you're in the middle of the Stranded saga to have just some standalone fun with the Eighth Doctor.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's my honorable mention, really. I just really enjoyed that one.
Yeah. I think an honourable mention for me is a release that caught me off guard, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to pick it up for a while. It was Torchwood Nightmares.
Oh, okay.
I think it just really did blow me away, this one. And I mean, it's a very chilling first story with John Coleshaw on top form as this TV show host. And then you've got the one that surprised me the most, not my favorite from the set, but certainly the one that surprised me the most was Lola in the middle here, which I thought was just going to be like the episode that sort of pads out the free. That, like you've got your highlights of set, and then you've got the one that's just there to make it a box set, so to speak. But no, it has a lot going for it, and has some very interesting twists and turns in that one. And then finally, Less Majesty is a wonderful farce. It is so much great comedy, and I just have such a good time with that one. And so, yeah, I think overall this set also, alongside the Grey Mare, made me realise how much I love Yanto as a character. He is something special. And it's nice seeing this sort of younger side to him here, where he is very much less of an equal, I guess, because of how Torchwood 1 is has much more of a hierarchy, whereas Torchwood 3 has a bit more of a flat team structure. And so it's nice seeing that different side to him. But yeah, and I suppose one last honourable mention from me would be Stranded 4, going to the Eighth Doctor again. I feel like Stranded is an odd one because I think the whole is better than some of its parts in a lot of ways. I think there's not too many individual stories which wow me and I'd want to re-listen to by themselves so much. But I think just how everything slots together in the end. Stranded 4 brought everything together beautifully, and it's such a different style from the usual Doctor Who stories. Like that final episode is not what you'd expect from a finale, but for Stranded, it is so wonderful and so fitting. And so I think, yeah, Stranded 4 is there to sort of like commemorate Stranded as a whole, to say what a good little saga for the Eighth Doctor this has been. And what a wonderful time for us as well, like during the pandemic, to have something like this to really enjoy, something really special and something that feels very domestic, very close to us, what we've been going through in real life.
Yeah, because it pays tribute to it as well, which it feels weird that there's sort of an element of us now where we kind of romanticize Lockdown 1 in a way.
Yeah. It's like that weird little time capsule, isn't it?
Yeah. But hopefully we never experience again, but we can say we lived through it,
Yeah.
and here we are.
I mean, I suppose it's the same really with a lot of people romanticized the Blitz at the time, didn't they?
Yeah, I guess that COVID's our generation's Blitz in a way.
Yeah.
But people in years to come be asking, what was it like living through the pandemic? And you're like, well,
yeah, they'll like
let me
think
tell
it's
you.
a lot more exciting.
Yeah.
I mean,
people were baking banana bread 24/7. Yeah.
Funny story, actually. My granddad, who did live through the Blitz, was like asked to come speak at a local school about what it was like, and he was just saying, "Oh, well, it was just a lot of fun, really, for him as a young boy, because you don't have that sense of mortality then,
No,
and so
you
you're
feel
just
invincible, don't you, as a kid?
and so you just sort of like enjoy playing on the bomb sites and things like that, and just." What it's like a bit more of a adventure, a bit of excitement in your life. And so they decided not to let him speak on it because of that. But yeah, that was his thoughts on the matter. Yeah.
Oh, that's bizarre. That's bizarre.
Yeah. It's funny though, isn't it? Because you think it would be terrifying. And probably as you get as an adult, it would have been much more. But you can understand from a kid's point of view that you're not quite able to take in, like, say, mortality. So it would have been an interesting experience.
It's all one big game, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Until one of your friends' legs gets blown off by a unexploded shell bomb or whatever. But yeah.
I think there is that whole like fallacy in psychology, isn't there, where it's like your brain is programmed to think, oh, it can't happen to me. Because if you are thinking about that, that's going to consume you 24/7, and it's not very healthy. So it's better
Yeah.
for you to not really think like that. Yeah. We're
But
getting a bit morbid now.
yeah, and it's only 10:15 at night.
We've sort of drifted away from Doctor Who a bit there. We're getting a bit
But
of
yeah,
shell shock, aren't we?
there we go. Brought it back around. My
Yeah.
honourable mentions, my other two, Ravencliff Witch we've talked about, so I don't feel like
There we go.
I feel like we'll gush over it at the later stream when we cover Fourth Doctor Series 11. But my other one, it feels weird not put it in the top 5, but I've got to say War Master Self Defense. Mainly for the last story with David Tennant. So it was a very different rematch to what you expect, and it sort of plays to that sort of, I guess, edgy teen phase you have going, God, why didn't we have Derek Jacobi instead of, it plays to that, and I'm glad we had that rematch because the story really excels between just those quiet moments between those two characters. So yeah, it's just anything with David Tennant, it's joy,
Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, maybe we were too overhyped with that set.
You're
So that's
very
why it let us down a
transfixed
bit.
on Tennant, maybe. You want to get to that last story, much like Old Friends in a way.
But yeah, I think we've definitely come around a bit on Fond Farewell. I mean, I remember I was quite in love with that story, particularly at the time. I think it probably took you a bit longer to come around on that one, didn't you?
Yeah, because you see the shiny thing of the Cybermen, you're like,
Yeah.
you want to know how it's all going to play out,
Lovely and shiny. Although he's talking about a pen, actually, but
yeah.
And that's also from Monster Metropolis, but
Well, it's still Life Doctor. It all works. It all works.
Yeah. I think one other thing here that Stylish One asked a while ago was most surprising and most disappointing relaunch box set.
Hmm.
Yeah. And also most surprising and most disappointing release of the year so far. So maybe go for that one instead and sort of encompass a bit more of it.
Okay.
So yeah, not necessarily what we think is the worst release, but the one that let us down the most. I think it's an interesting question from Stylish One there. And then,
do you want to start?
Yeah, I say most surprising for me is maybe Back to Earth. I don't, I don't know why, but it felt like even though we really loved Old Friends, we were sort of like a bit unsure on Back to Earth. Like it felt too soon to be going back to the Ninth Doctor, and we were sort of over that obsession for a while, weren't we? We were sort of thinking, can we just get more two-parters for one thing? But yeah, then we listened to it, and particularly Station to Station just blew us both away.
Yeah.
And so I'd say that's my most surprising release of the year.
I think my most surprising one is Paladin.
Oh.
Because it's one what you sort of dismiss going, is it a spin-off too far? And I think Paladin is such a rich world, and no pun intended, it hasn't really been mined in the grand scheme of Doctor Who. So it was wonderful to sort of have that, and it would have been lovely to have more David Troughton. I think that was one of the negatives I have for it, because I just loved David Troughton, that sort of bromance he has with an Ice Lord, and that little surprise cameo. It just feels very memorable. And then just McGann singing the Venusian lullaby of Haroon, Haroon, Haroon. It's hypnotizing.
That last story is definitely the highlight of that set with McGann in there. But I believe it's David Richardson who described it best when he spoke about it as a tapestry going through Paladin history. And I love the box set from that point of view, how we sort of move on, I think 50 years in between each story or thereabouts.
Okay.
It's interesting seeing that progress. I hope one day that we get a Fourth Doctor and Sarah like Hinchcliffe style story on Paladin, because I think Peladon very much suits that vibe.
It almost feels like what we've got with the Seventh Doctor now going back to Ribos or Rebos, however you want to pronounce it. It sort of has that feel to it now. I feel like what they're doing with Rebos is sort of tapping into sort of that Game of Thrones sort of winter is coming, you know.
Yeah, it's the
With ice
feudal
time.
society, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but it's more of a mythical version. Like it has its own myths and legends and such, its own style. And so in that, it's got a lot more freedom than doing a story set in our history would do. So
Yeah.
you get that aesthetic, but also more freedom comes with that in a way.
Yeah.
And another most surprising one would be the Outlaws for me. Again, going back to that one, because I think when that was first announced, it was a bit taken aback that, oh, why is David Bradley not here and such. But then gradually, as we heard more and more from it, more and more of Stephen's performance, the hype then built up a lot more, and it really did surprise me when I finally got to listen to it in full.
I mean, I love that they went all out for the Outlaws in terms of like promotion.
Yeah, they're very much sticking to their guns and saying, no, don't doubt this. It is a good one. And yeah, we
And
were wrong
it
to doubt.
is
Well,
good.
I was wrong to doubt it. I don't know if you quite had your same doubts, but yeah.
See, I've got a real soft spot for like the Hartnell era. For me, it's an era. There's just a lovely coziness to the Hartnell stuff. It feels a bit like a warm blanket, and there's something quite nice about listening to the '60s Big Finish stuff because it does have that feel to it. So I've always been excited about the first Doctor stuff in that way, you know.
Yeah. I suppose, shall we talk about the most disappointing one now?
Oh, I get. I suppose we've got to be on the flip side of it.
Yeah. We've had our positive, we've got to go negative now.
I guess so, yeah.
I mean, for me, Doctor of War Genesis is one that stands out.
I feel like with that one, again, you sort of want to see how Doctor of War Destiny plays out. I feel like it's a very different box set to what was how you perceive it, really, because it's not just
much more timey-wimey.
Yeah, which you kind of should expect from a Time War story. But it's not Colin Baker being the War Doctor in these cosmic battles. It's something very different, you know.
Yeah. I mean, what about you? Is there any thoughts on her?
I feel 40 because I love Peter Davison's Doctor on Big Finish. You know, I feel like he's become one of the champion Doctors for me. And I think when you think of Secrets of Talos, you think, oh, this is going to be really exciting. And the first two parts are great, and then it does something very.
I like that box set.
Yeah, and then it sort of flips it, and you're like, "Oh no, keep to how it was in the first two parts, please." And the Ice Warrior story, I love it. The Ice Warriors are one of my favorite villains, and I think it could have really utilized because the Ice Warriors are based off Vikings, and it didn't really utilize the Vikings and the Ice Warriors together. It didn't merge as well as I'd wanted it to be honest.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a bit too simple a story. But I think once you're into that idea, it's already time to wrap it up.
Because there's a wonderful 12th Doctor comic where it's the Ice Warriors and the Flood and Vikings, and it's just like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's a really good comic. So maybe that probably clouded my judgment in a way, going, it should have been like that. Don't know. I guess following on from that, Stylish Person also asked most anticipated upcoming release. What one are you looking? Well, should we do a couple?
Yeah, I think we could do like a top, maybe not a top 3 or whatever in order, but just a couple of them. Also, just wanted to read out Stephen Noonan's message here saying, "Love both of your observations about the work we, Nick, Lauren, and the team have done, and I've really enjoyed your views about the other ranges." Thank you very much, Stephen, and thank you for all the hard work that you, Nick, Lauren, and the team put into the First Doctor Adventures, and I suppose other ranges as well, since we know you're getting a little cheeky part in the Third Doctor Adventures at some point.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, look forward to putting your work back in our ears again and listening to whatever comes next, and whatever that Dalek story, whether that comes to fruition, that'd be exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting times with what's
It's the
to come,
unknown,
I
isn't
think.
it? It is wonderful.
Yeah.
The speculativeness of it, really.
Yeah, well, some of the main range, not main range, the relaunch might be off to a rocky start. I think there's definitely a lot of potential in this format going forwards, and I think
Oh yes,
it's just waiting for them to get a grip on it. Because I feel like that's what Big Finish does sometimes with things like the Third Doctor Adventures. They sort of had that shaky start where they're still feeling things out, but then once they've got a grip, we need to hang on tight as well because it's going to be one hell of a ride.
Mm.
Yeah. Silas person also asked, will you be looking at the recent Big Finish news as well? Yes, we shall be. We've sort of started this one looking at the past. So we're slap bang in the middle of the year here. So we've looked back at the past 6 months, and now with your question about our most anticipated upcoming releases, we're shifting our focus now into the second half of the year, the coming 6 months. So yeah, I think let's look at what releases we're anticipating.
I want to say Beyond War Games.
It's like the easy option, isn't it?
Because it's the easy option is the most
yeah,
recent.
I know what you mean.
But
it's the one we're gearing ourselves up for mentally because we know we're getting it.
Yeah, I think
tomorrow
that's
or the day after.
Yeah, it's unknown territory again. I feel because season 6B was very much a fan idea, wasn't it? Just to try and put placement on why Troughton's got slightly, grey hair.
Yeah, why he recognises Jamie and Zoe in the Five Doctors.
So it's great to see that sort of played out. And again, it's that unknown factor. We're gonna get the great terrible Zodin, is it?
Oh, you weren't concerned with her, were you?
So yeah, it's that, and yeah, the Annihilators has been like a nice sort of tantalizing glimpse of what's to come.
It's given us a chance to ease into Michael Troughton's performance as well. I think we're on board with his take on the Second Doctor now, especially in that trailer with the whoa, whoa, whoa.
Michael, are you here? Have you joined us?
No, it's Patrick back from the dead.
Oh goodness!
Oh my giddy aunt!
My gosh!
I think he's capturing it very well, and I look forward to seeing how they capture the Second Doctor's era, because they haven't quite had a chance to do that before outside of the early adventures.
I feel like they put their own spin on it. Really, I feel like it's going to be what if Troughton stayed for season 7 in something like Wrath of the Ice Warriors.
Yeah, they're certainly leaning into that with the cover, aren't they? With it being while the Outlaws was a black and white cover, this one is more of a color variation on the Second Doctor title sequence. Well, speaking of Outlaws, Stephen Noonan says loads of interesting ideas for the First Doctor from Briggsy. Lots to look forward to. We're excited to see what's to come.
That'll be a definite pre-order for sure.
I think it's January, isn't it? The next set.
I mean, I like 2 sets a year because I just enjoy the First Doctor stuff.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to have all the Doctors on a fully even playing field there, where they've all got 2 sets a year. I suppose maybe with because the Third Doctor Adventure is a bit more proven as a recast, whereas Stephen and Michael have only just stepped into those roles. They're sort of like hedging their bets a bit with the sales for now, perhaps, before committing to 2 sets a year.
I mean, I say just go all out, really.
Yeah, I agree.
Give us the stories. If there's a story to be told, tell it.
I think another release that I've been anticipating for a while now is Brave New World.
Bambera.
Yeah. I think Angela Bruce is very much a leading lady. And from what I've heard in the 20-minute preview they put out, it feels like something very different, very fresh. And while I do quite like what they've done with the new series unit, it feels a bit more ensemble in a lot of ways. Like Kate Stewart, while she is definitely the main character, as such, she's not necessarily a leading lady in the same way that Bambera is in this set, and I think it's exciting to see what they can do with this Brave New Era. It's sort of, we're not quite going back to that retro feel of the 70s, but it's still got that period quality to it in the 90s. And I think it's an exciting time with the world they're playing with. They're just coming out of the Cold War, and see what place units at in this world, and getting to build their own cast of characters here with the scientific advisor. I can't remember their name. She is Dr. Louise Ricks, and then you've also got Sergeant Jean Paul Savarin alongside Bambera here. I think hopefully they'll make a nice little unit, I suppose.
Pun intended?
Yeah, very much so. And yeah, just having, like they've said, the second story in the set is like a Green Death style of story. Just having like that, but with a more 90s feel, because we haven't had much 90s Doctor Who on audio as such. Like we've never got to experience what a TV series in the 90s would be. Because obviously with the Virgin New Adventures and stuff, we did get to see a 90s take on Doctor Who, but in a much more adult way, because they were less limited. It like makes you wonder what 90s Who could have been had it been on TV.
So I feel like that's what you would have got with like the Eric Roberts Master series, but again, it doesn't lead into that sort of 90s American show. It's very much its own entity.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've heard so far with that extract, it does very much feel like its own 90s show.
Yeah, because I feel like the closest thing you have to it maybe is the season 2027 Lost Stories.
Yeah, because that would have been the 1990 season.
Yeah. Again, Bambera's in that. That's a good story. Animal.
Yeah. I mean, she's wonderful in Battlefield. There's a reason she's getting her own series now and has stuck with people this long. There's a reason Tennant was fanboying over her, when David Tennant, that is, when he got to work with her on some show before he got cast as a Doctor. I can't remember quite which.
It just feels like a bit of a why is it taking so long to get, you know?
Yeah, it almost feels like it's something that should have come out in the 2000s, even like back when we were getting Gallifrey and spin-offs like that.
You did have Unit though. That was the thing. Maybe Big Fish thought maybe she's not interested.
Yeah,
Don't know.
Because I don't think she's worked for Big Finish much until recently. Yeah, she only did Animal. That was her first one back in 2009. Was 2011? That was
okay.
So she only stepped in then, and that was as Bambera. Then after that, she didn't do anything until Master of Callus.
Wow.
Yeah.
But now she's become a bit of a regular now with like she was in Conversion and Warbringer as well. Yeah, the War Doctor story.
Yeah. I suppose maybe that's like their way of getting her to feel her way around the studio before she's the one in charge of it, as so to speak.
Yeah,
I am very excited for Seabird 1.
Any other ones you're looking forward to? I say 10th Doctor Classic Companions.
I mean, looking forward to it, but I don't think it's quite up there yet.
I think because it's one of those ones that was announced 2020 as well. Like,
yeah,
it's been like, it's a bit like the 11th Doctor Chronicles Volume 2. Like, you know, it's happening and we're just slowly edging towards it now.
We're over the hype a bit at this point. Although the trailer was good.
Yeah, that's the thing. I really enjoyed the trailer. I'm just really excited to just the glee of hearing Tennant say K9. It just does something to me.
K9.
It's so wonderful. And just having Axos back on audio, you know.
Another exciting September release is The New Adventures of Bernie Summerfield Volume 7, Blood and Steel.
Yes.
I think that's like on the opposite end of the spectrum, where that was fairly recently announced. So like the hype is still quite raw off of that one. I mean, we recently got a trailer for it. We're sort of cutting into the news a bit here, but
Chef kiss.
what a brilliant trailer that was. Hearing the invasion sound effects for the advertising theme. Yeah,
That's a terrible impression.
I like Sport. I was done with Bernice, not because I didn't like what they were doing there, but just because some things had to go. Big Finish is expensive. I had to make some sacrifices, but then they thrown this at me with the Cybermen, and it's just like I can't resist.
It's just say like different Cybermen and the Wheel in Space ones on cover. You're like, oh, it feels fresh and exciting. And I think again, it's been 2 years since our last David Warner set, and I really love David Warner's Doctor, and it just feels great that he's back really, and he just seems on fine form from the trailer. And I think as well, Bernice has got quite a history with World War II. Well, yeah, with like Nazi occupied Germany, all that sort of stuff, with like Just War. So hopefully it taps into that sort of stuff.
You've also got the question marks on David Warner's collars now.
Yeah. It's a nice little evolution, I guess. But we're still waiting for David Warner and McCoy at this point. I think that's a thing I'd like to hear.
Yeah, that's something we've been discussing ever since they first announced Benny was crossing over with the Unbound Doctor. But, I mean, I'm quite looking forward to where the 8th Doctor Adventures are going to go as well.
Yes. Wonderful covers.
I just want more fun with McGann, really.
Yeah.
I think it's nice to now have these characters going forward with Liv and Helen in these standalone adventures rather than an ongoing saga. Like, I really enjoyed Stranded, but I think it's nice to be away from that now because we were stuck with that for 2 years. And it's a very unique style. And while I love it for going for something different, it's nice to return to more back to basics style now.
I just think from what bits we have, like Drax, like the Tomb of Drax, John Dorney doing a Dalek 2-parter. If it's like Palindrome, we're in for a treat, really.
Yeah, Weeping Angels as well.
Yeah, it just has sort of that streaming platform cover as well. You're like, I just want to binge listen to that now because it feels like its own little series of adventures.
We've got the great Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle writing a story for the two of them with the Dalby Spook. That's it. Nicola Walker's got experiences with spooks, hasn't she?
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. There you go.
I'm sure there'll be a joke about that on the interviews.
Hopefully there is. Be a missed opportunity otherwise.
But yeah, I mean, no details on that story, but it's a brilliant title, and from what we know about them with the Grey Mare, I think that could be quite an exciting one.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, also 9th Doctor Adventures Hidden Depths. We're getting more Liv and Helen. We're sort of cutting into the news a bit now, but it's sort of unavoidable when talking about upcoming stuff. But yeah, I'm quite anticipating that. I look forward to seeing what the cover brings for that one.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it. Shall we go into the news now?
Yeah, let's do a bit of news to wrap it up.
Nothing really this week yet, other than a bit of Thunderbirds, but even that was previously announced because I saw that came out with Anderson Entertainment a while ago. It's only now just come up on the Big Finish website.
Just load the old page up already.
Ooh, the Big Finish newsletter's just come through, actually.
Anything exciting?
There's something about it's the Radio Times interview with Michael Troughton.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
Yeah, I didn't quite have a chance to have a read of that yet. But yeah, and we've also got 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 1 on sale, or at least the 3 individual stories from it. Yeah, it's this week's clearance deal.
Yeah, it made you think when they do a sale on a Monday, like, oh, we going to announce like more Tennant and Tate stuff. you always think when the stuff goes on sale on the Monday, we're getting like news related to said sale in a way.
Yeah, because we got that with Benny, didn't we?
Yeah.
That was when they put the some of the other sets on sale when they announced the Blood and Steel Volume 7. But then the next week it was Third Doctor on sale. We think, we finally get some news on what's coming in October, but no.
Like, damn. We're that close.
Yeah. But
news-wise, where should we
Big
start?
Finish writing opportunities closed, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's probably closed by the time. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, closed June 30th was the final day. Yeah. All right. Did you enter at all?
I'm not a writer.
Uh,
I can perform words, but that's as much as I go.
yeah. I mean, I wanted to. I had an idea. I feel like COVID wiped me out too much in terms of productivity.
Yeah.
So I just thought, I don't want to rush this idea in these final few days. I'd rather save it for next year and hopefully do it justice.
And refine it, yeah.
Yeah.
Make use of that writing degree.
Yeah. I don't want to be putting something in just for the sake of it. I want to actually submit something that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But next up, it's Ninth Doctor, isn't it? The first of the Ninth Doctor news from last week, because we have Maureen O'Brien, but not as Vicky.
I swear we saw this image before. I feel.
I don't know, mate. We saw one with Katie Manning.
Yeah, maybe we're gonna get Katie in a future set, maybe.
Yeah, I think they just happened to be in the recording studio at the same time because that was way back when they did Series 1. But yeah, I mean, with her playing the Ice Warrior Queen, maybe we could have her playing a different character alongside Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah, so who knows? I guess this sort of reminds me of how Big Finish got around to using some of like the 60s companions back in the day. Because you had William Russell in The Game. I swear there's other examples. I think Deborah Watling was in Fraser Crowd.
Yeah, Wendy Padbury was in Davros, wasn't she?
Oh yeah, so it feels like a throwback in a way.
Yeah,
to that.
I suppose it's like because with the First Doctor Adventures, they're focusing on First Doctor and Dodo at the moment, and so this is a way to give Maureen O'Brien something different to do with Big Finish. Yeah, be interested to see what she does with these characters. She's in the second story by James Kettle, like the more casino type one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I feel like with this set, I'm more in the same mindset as I was with Back to Earth before that one came out. Like, I'm not really too hyped for it. But we know what happened with Back to Earth and how that blew us away. So hopefully the same things happened here. But
they're very good writers, though. Because Timothy A. Attack did the final story in Respond to All Calls.
Yeah, Planet of the End.
Planet of the End, that was a really good one. James Kettle, did The Blazing Hour, and Tim Foley's just become one of the standout writers of recent Big Finish.
Yeah, I mean, Old Lang Syne from Back to Earth.
Exactly.
Example. And I mean, that's the one that excites me most in this with the Jack Frost type story. I think that could be something very special.
Yeah, much like Old Friends, I like it when Doctor Who dabbles into folklore. And Jack Frost is one of those things you learn as a kid quite early on that all Jack Frost has been when there's a frost. So it'd be quite interesting to put a bit of a Grimm's fairy tale-ness to it, really. But a very
more of a
twist.
Yeah. More of a sci-fi, almost alien way. But it looks things like set on a space station with these cryogenics and stuff.
Yeah, because you sort of imagine it sort of being in this sort of a bit like the Damons in this sort of quaint little quintessential English little village, but no, it's out in space.
Stars Person says, surely this new Ninth Doctor set would have made more sense to come before Back to Earth. It would make that box set feel more appropriate title-wise. Yeah, true. But we can imagine I think it's more just because it came so quickly afterwards with Back to Earth.
Yeah, there's not much of a gap, is there, with the Ninth Doctor stuff?
But I feel like Station is the more fitting opener for a series.
Well, it feels hard to judge because we've not listened to this set, so
Yeah,
for all we
true.
know, the Sontaran could be a good opener.
Mhm. But when it comes to Rusty Davis openers, though, he doesn't tend to go for a returning monster.
I guess it fits like that midpoint in a series. With
Yeah.
sometimes because you normally get like a bit of returning to sort of be like a race, a ratings boost, because that's what he did with Dalek. He put the Daleks in the middle of a series case for series dipped, but the viewed figures will at least peak back up when the Dalek appears. So it feels quite fitting in that way, even though it doesn't work in the same vein for
Yeah.
audio.
I mean, I suppose it kind of does in sales, perhaps.
Yeah. Ratings instead of sales. Yeah, it's true.
But then that doesn't. I suppose it does kind of affect Big Finish as well because the cash flows at the right time, don't they? But yeah, I suppose. Shall we move on to the next bit of news?
Yeah, let's do that. For loads. Come on, here we go. We had a monster BBC audiobook clearance sale. So if you like your audiobooks, probably pass now. There was quite a few tempting ones in that. What did tempt me? But then again, I realised, I've got the book. I should probably read it instead of going the lazy way of getting the audiobook instead.
Get someone else to read it to you.
I
wonder what they're like with the production values. If it's on the same level as the Big Finish audio novels.
See, I had a couple of like the of War ones, like Fountain of War, Men of War, and Horror of War, and they felt very much akin to like Companion Chronicles. In sort of the simplest way I can describe it, but I couldn't say what the actual BBC books are like Dalek Generation, which fantastic book.
Yeah. I suppose that's part of the reason why Big Finish has been leaning away from that a bit more recently. Like the Second Doctor Companion Chronicles Volume 3 is full cast.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre because it's a Companion Chronicle, well, certainly the first story is. I haven't listened to the rest yet, but I believe they are.
Again, I can't comment on it. It's one of those releases where just got to put on the back burner.
Right. But anyway, we now have a TARDIS trip to Sheffield with the next Sixth Doctor set, Purity Undreamed. We've sort of already talked about our disappointment of where the Sixth Doctor's at the moment, sadly. But yeah, I mean, stylish ones said, or stylish person, sorry, had some interesting pieces to say on this. I've never seen such a hostile reaction to a Big Finish cover than the reaction to the new Sixth Doctor cover. It seems that along with that tweet about the cover art, it seems the watercolors could be phased out. That's two divisive reactions to it for if you count classic companions. Lots of complaints of Big Finish, people not buying certain releases. Big Finish overused that and lot, in my opinion. Now people are sick of it. Yeah, there has been a bit of discourse about that on Twitter, hasn't there?
I mean, there's always discourse. Yeah, there's always discourse on something.
Yeah, it's like, I think the thing for both sides to remember is, on the one hand, an actual person has put time and effort into making this. But on the other hand, it is still a product that people are going to need to be putting money into. And while people will argue, oh, surely you're buying it for the audio, but particularly if you're going for a physical release, you're also getting it for that presentation, and the cover. And especially when there's only one cover now for these box sets, there's no individual ones for the most part. You want something good.
Yeah.
And sadly, I think this one isn't that great. I looked at this and felt nothing really, to be honest. I think the style has become overused.
I think what doesn't help is like the choice of image. That it's very much, they've been recording the audio that day and they've just took a few behind the scenes photos, thought, right, give the artist those to use. So I feel like, it's a bit of a shame really, because I think Hebe's friend, they've used the announcement photo from that for the cover.
Yeah. It feels like very lazy choices.
Because when this art style started, it was something fresh, very different, unique, and it was very exciting.
It was a way to get like more out of what exists, wasn't it? Because with this, you're not limited by promotional pictures. You can make your own ones, but it is just recreations of promotional pictures that we've all seen before.
Because like the only bit of story you get is the caveman, or maybe that white sort of. I mean, I think the color palette works well because it's a nice sort of in between from the interlude, which is again quite a greeny cover.
Yeah. Yeah, I think mixed with our disappointment with the Sixth Doctor at the moment at Big Finish, this doesn't really help much. It doesn't get me more excited for this release at all.
Yeah, it's a shame because I really like Hebe. Yeah, I mean the stories, they sound okay. They sound all right. I mean Paul Mars, I like his stuff.
It's interesting having it all set on present day Earth by the looks of it.
I do sort of worry that is it going to have the same sort of thing like Waterworld where you get a bit
Oh, we're going to be
fatigued
sick
by
of it.
this,
Yeah.
by sort of these mysterious scientific clinics and all that sort of stuff. You know, I don't know. Because you get like a mindless facility in the first one. Second one, you have a secretive Swedish clinic with a charismatic geneticist. So yeah, it feels like it could teeter on the edge of this bit similar in a way.
Yeah, Stylish Person says it seems a bit weird that the painted covers could do so much creatively, yet just copy production photos exactly, shading and coloring and all. Weird given the potential. Yeah, like I've seen people saying like, a lot of work does go into this to recreate it. But if it ultimately looks just like a computer generated filter over a regular image, then is there really much point in all that work, sadly? Like, I think some artists have this debate as well when it comes to like realism, where it's like if your artwork is to the point where it's so realistic that it's indistinguishable from a photo, what is then the point in it being a piece of artwork and not a photo?
That feels like a big moral question.
Yeah, it feels like Big Finish should write a story about that.
Yeah, that would be a good one to do.
Yeah. It's like,
Be
so it's like, what is the
exquisite.
purpose of art? I'm pretty sure there is a Doctor Who story about that
Probably is.
already.
And
I
it can
mean,
involve
City of
John
Death,
Cleese. Yeah,
sort of, really.
that'd be wonderful. Be
Yeah.
exquisite. Simply exquisite.
Yeah. Bucket Think Tank says it draws away from the costumes too. I barely know Colin is wearing his coat, and you don't forget that coat. Yeah, so true. I think it's better for more character-heavy audios. Yeah, sometimes it works quite well because, like with Scourge the Cybermen, you very much do see Pertwee's costume on that one. But yeah, here Colin does sort of blend into the background a bit with that coat.
He's become a chameleon. Yeah, I mean that white object looks a bit like Turlo's little crystal.
Yeah, it's weird that that's also just hanging off the side as well.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, I imagine it'll be there fully on the physical copy because that's like slightly wider. But yeah. Oh, we're also back to the logo at the bottom now.
Oh, damn consistency.
Yeah, but it's consistent with everything else at least. So it just makes it does feel weird that Waterworlds didn't have that to begin with. Well,
I just have to wait and see.
it's nice now when you click on the bundle page and you see all the covers together that they've got. Because it's only we're only missing, yeah. If you get
Save money with the bundle, which you might want to do now because of the price increase in November.
Yeah. 12 or 14, sorry, releases.
Is it going to load? Come on.
There
I
we
mean,
go.
that does look very nice.
Yeah, you see it all together there. I mean, that's what's going to be on the shelf eventually. Or the way that the 8th Doctor ones are paired up there as well. That's
Oh, that is nice.
they're joining together. Yeah. So yeah, we're only 3 covers away
Oh, yeah. Oh,
from having all
what
the relaunch covers from this year.
I like how it's sort of like a little step.
Mm.
Oh, I like that. Oh, got to catch them all.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can see the logo's mostly at the bottom except for Waterworlds and Silver and Ice. I bet they're going to stick it at the top of Sullivan and Cross just to annoy us still.
Probably will.
Who knows? It's these little details, isn't it? They don't matter, but
Yeah.
us Doctor Who fans obsess over them.
It's just pernickety at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Size Preston also asks, have you seen the unused Stranded individual covers? Are they official unused ones? Because it's by Will Brooks, but he wasn't the artist for the Stranded covers. Like that was Tom Webster and Rafe Wallbank for the Stranded 4. So is that Will Brooks do his own fan ones? Also, has he shared them all individually? Because I know he put like a collage of them out on Instagram, but I don't know if he shared them on their own yet.
I feel like they're Will
if you
Brooks'
remember
own little fan made things, because he used to make his own Battles in Time equivalent cards. So I feel like it's just for his own pleasure, really.
Yeah, just a bit of fun.
But they are very nice.
Yeah, they are very high quality as well. Like you can imagine them very much fitting the Stranded style. Stephen Noonan says, I love 60s Who, no choice. Yeah, I suppose you're sort of trapped in that box now that you're the first Doctor. But my prime affections probably lie in the 70 to 77 era of the programme. I'll be putting some related material on YouTube soonish, so stay tuned. Oh, that'd be
I think for me that's like the golden stuff, like Pertwee to like the end of the Hinchcliffe stuff. For me, that's like you can't beat it. It's like the golden age of Doctor Who.
It's the most consistent as well. Like there's so many high quality stories and very few, if any, duds, I'd say. Like I love Patrick Troughton as the Doctor, and I love a lot of his stories, but I will say there are some I struggle with, like the Underwater Menace.
I mean, the Tele Snap reconstruction probably doesn't help.
No,
on the DVD, but yeah. But just like the 70s, you just see it go from strength to strength, really, after fighting sort of cancellation at the end of like season 6 to a very different start season in season 7, because season 7 just feels like an entity of its own. And then you see it become the unit family you all love, and then Pertwee laid down the foundations for Tom to really build upon that, really. And sort of, I guess Pertwee made it more of a cult show, and I think it became more of a family show with Tom, really. Maybe it went back to its roots in a way, maybe. Don't know.
I suppose also getting out in the universe again, exploring, helped to go back to its roots. But I think when it comes to season 7's feel, I think Benji Clifford on the podcast summed it up perfectly by saying it feels like if Doctor Who was made by ITV for a year.
Yes, that's true.
It's one of those weird statements that you can't quantify it as such, but something just clicks there.
Yeah.
That you know what he means by it.
Yeah. Be interesting. Yeah, because I bet it's a bit like Doctor Who and the Sweeney, you know.
Yeah.
Especially like the Havoc stuff. Yeah.
Certainly Annihilators is going for that with the police procedural side of it for a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I suppose. Shall we talk about the upcoming Master set?
I mean, that fits to Master. Yeah, that fits Pertwee with the return of Kronos. Come, Kronos, come.
Yeah. Or I think it's just a random. Is it actually Kronos or is it just an Anachronivore?
It's probably just a random chronivore, but there's just something quite thrilling about seeing that bird pigeon back on a cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very nice. Very good cover.
Pick this one up.
I think because my allegiance to the third Doctor era, I feel like I have to, and I feel like it's got such a good premise, this box set as well. The setting sounds great.
Yeah, go for that like Snowpiercer style of train, but instead it's traveling through the time vortex.
Yeah, it is, and I really enjoyed the first Eric Roberts. I feel like that was one of the surprising releases last year for me. You know, and it made sense, and it's going to be interesting to see how it picks off from where that set ended. But I do enjoy Master. Are you tempted by it since you didn't get the first one?
I'm slightly tempted, but I think I will hold off on it.
Just look how badass he looks. You got to go for it. Go on.
I've got to save money somewhere.
It's fine. You can starve. You can have a Time Monster sequel, and you'll be fine.
Maybe that'll be in the upcoming Third Doctor's.
Maybe, yeah. Turn to Atlantis again.
Yeah,
and again.
Destroy it for a fourth time.
Anything's possible. It's Doctor Who.
Maybe a Demons prequel with Azal destroying Atlantis.
Ooh, that'd be a nice little change. I'll have to recast Azal. No Stephen Thorne anymore.
Yeah, because he did come back for Omega, didn't he, for a while?
And he come back.
We're going to have Brian Blessed as
Eldrad.
As Azal.
I mean, probably have to skip the headphones if Brian Blessed's doing that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he hasn't done King Yrcanos, if that's the case.
Well, he's been killed off now off screen, hasn't he? Technically.
Yeah.
Sarge says, "I'm so hyped for this Master set. Master. I love Snowpiercer, the show and the movie, and this set sounds similar but different. I love Eric Roberts, and this set sounds right up my street. Second most anticipated. Oh wow, this is a very exciting set for you." Yeah. Stephen Noonan also says, "I love your video about your affection for the Pertwee era, Ben."
I feel like that's probably the most personal video I've ever done, and I think it just encapsulates why that era means so much to me. Really,
you've opened your soul out to the camera.
Yeah, for the sake of entertainment. But hey, that's the world we live in.
Your soul is a commodity being sold.
But it's all for the love of John, the gracious man.
That's right. Should we do Ninth Doctor again next, or should we do Seventh Doctor? Because we do have a title reveal.
Do a bit of McCoy, break it up a little bit.
Yeah.
No,
so we find it. They sort of snuck this one out a bit as well. Like, it's in the article. But it's the title for the next set coming out in November, and that is Sullivan and Cross AWOL.
So we're getting Naomi and Harry Sullivan.
Yeah, which it took me a while to click with that when I first saw this title. I was like, who's Sullivan and Cross? But then I realised we have Harry Sullivan and Naomi Cross as this duo. And so AWOL presumably meaning they're absent without leave from unit for whatever reason. It's an odd combo with the Seventh Doctor. I wonder if we're going to have Ace or any other companions there, or it will just be this trio.
Because I was listening to the Sirens of Audio, which, great podcast. And if they're watching, they're doing some top tier stuff with like the interviews they get. They did one with Christopher Naylor, who plays Harry. And it does seem like they have like a big grand scheme planned for those two characters, Harry and Naomi.
Yeah, so I suppose this fits into that somehow.
I guess it's one of those ones what's been recorded pretty recently, I'd say. Because I feel like the stuff with Harry and Naomi probably recorded back in like 2019 with Tom. Just the way they are with the Tom stuff.
I think the recording dates are all up on there. Yeah,
it feels strange that we've heard them already, but we haven't had the beginning of that journey to where they are now.
Yeah, and we've still got over nearly 2 years to wait. Just under 2 years.
See, there was an audio.
That's like, we were so excited for that.
Yeah.
I gotta wait so long still. Oh yeah, that was announced like 2020, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Wasn't that?
Because
Yeah.
it was like a virtual Big Finish day, wasn't it? They did like a big live stream for like 9 hours. That's when I think that's when they announced it.
I wonder if we're going to get details on Series 14 soon then.
I mean, yeah.
Nearly 2 years since we got Series 13 announced, so who knows?
Maybe if they normally announce for Tom stuff in like the autumn, don't they? So maybe then. Just have to see.
That'll be 2025.
I mean, they did do a tweet saying like there's guaranteed Tom stuff up until like a certain year. I think it was 2024.
Yeah, I mean that's the Naomi stuff for September 2024. That the final one that comes out, but we know they've recorded a lot more with Tom there.
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna get a fourth Doctor 50. I feel like that seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah,
celebrating 50 years of Tom.
Yeah, well, hopefully on vinyl as well.
Oh,
that feels like a worthy release to put on vinyl.
I feel like with Tom, if it's on vinyl, it just feels more authentic. You know, back to like the Genesis of the Daleks,
retro, aren't they?
Yeah, back to like the Genesis of the Daleks soundtrack on vinyl.
But I mean, Sullivan and Cross Sable, we've got them both already. So.
Yeah. So it's like we don't need to worry if we bought it. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I guess back to the other bit of news. Liv and Tanya's love story continues.
Well, evening, Mr. Bonkcactus. No pints tonight so far, I'm afraid. You're welcome
it is
to
a school night.
Have one on us, though.
Yeah, have one on us.
Yeah. We're not going to pay for it, but have one on us.
No, too much of the price, Liv. Got to cut corners somewhere.
Yeah, that could go on a Big Finish box set. Yeah. Speaking of living.
Yeah, very different kind of. Yeah, he's full of puns tonight.
I'm hitting the right bell.
Oh, he's just continuing. Is he gonna get a hat trick?
Who knows? You're setting me up now. You're setting me up for failure.
Yep. Okay, so this feels like, of course, a no-brainer. Having a very domestic kitchen sink Doctor with these two characters. And it was hinted back in Stranded as well. I feel like, why did I... Well, no, the Ninth Doctor Adventures, wasn't it?
Yeah, like the Ninth Doctor Adventures Girl Deconstructed.
Yeah.
Like less than a year ago, we had that little hint where the Ninth Doctor said, oh, I lived domestically once for a while, and the whole universe almost ended or something. That was by... that's Lisa McMullen who wrote that one. That's a wonderful little story. And that was just so magical hearing the Ninth Doctor talking about not only events from Classic Who, but now an event from a Big Finish story, which we were currently in the middle of. It just felt so surreal to have Chris Eccleston and the Ninth Doctor talking about that, because on TV, Series 1 is very reference-free, but now to suddenly have that felt mind-blowing. And now, just over a year on, to get this set where he's actually meeting them, it feels perfect.
I feel like everything just feels earned, but we've built up to this point now.
Yeah. Well, Stephen Noonan says, got to go now. Lovely to drop in like this. Keep up the great work, lads. See you. Thank you for joining us, Stephen Noonan. It's a pleasure as always.
Yeah, thank you very much. Look forward to more of your work.
So, Liv and Tanya. I mean, you haven't quite got to the end of Stranded 4 yet, but I've sort of spoiled for you how it's going.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, you have news like this and news like the 8th Doctor one's already out, so it's like you had your chance to listen to it.
Yeah, it's my own fault, but it doesn't ruin the enjoyment of it and the excitement, really.
Yeah, I know you still got it's just like the ending. You still got the journey to it and what actually happens.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's a bit in between, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, this is sort of like set after Stranded. Not sure quite when. Like maybe this will be 2022. Like they'll be living together for a little while at this point. But yeah, I mean, set in a furniture store as well. Story called Flat Pack
And it's
by
weird.
John Dorney.
We got this one teased, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
The
one
original
of the first one teased.
tease.
Yeah,
So
along with the first story of this set, The Seas of Titan. Yeah, and then in the middle we have a 19th century health spa with Lay Down Your Arms by Lisa McMullen. That feels like it could be quite a creepy one.
Yeah, it does. I guess a bit like the series 8 of Fourth Doctor Adventures, False Guardian, Times Assassin, with that sort of spa on Kemble.
Yeah, but I imagine this will be going, because it seems to be like going Victorian times. I mean, I don't know whether it'll be in England or not, but it sort of gives you almost like a sort of like a plague type feeling of sorts. Maybe so. Maybe you could get some creepy visuals there.
I'd be down for a creepy story.
I mean, we could be painting this all wrong, to be fair, but yeah, that's just what instantly comes to mind.
It could be like Tropical Beach and other soundscapes, where it's just like a relaxation Victorian sort of wax cylinder. Don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be very interesting to hear Liv alongside the Ninth Doctor, though, in that final story, because we've had her with the Seventh Doctor in. I mean, that was when she first made her debut, quite a long while ago now. Is that 2011 with Robophobia?
I want to say it is. Yeah.
So she's been around for over 10 years now, Liv.
And still going strong as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a quick look at. I mean, yeah, Liv has a very exciting time ahead of her. July 2011. So yeah, 11 years this month. But yeah, Liv has a very exciting time ahead of her at the end of this year and start of next, because we got this set and the Eighth Doctor, What Lies Inside, in November. Then we've got Connections, Eighth Doctor Adventures in December. And then in January, we've got the finale of The Robots. So we explore 3 different points in Liv's life there.
Well, there we go. There we go.
And it's wonderful hearing Christopher Eccleston talk about the caliber of actors that Nicola Walker and Rebecca Root are in that little interview he's got there.
You can just see that Eccleston's really got into the world of Big Finish, and rightly so, because they do such tremendous work, and I really like radio drama. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't know what a Liv is, but he's still connecting to this story on that level, and knows that Nicola Walker's going to be bringing her A game in response to that. And
so that'll make him bring his game as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting hearing them talking about where the Doctor has gone at this point in his life, because there's been quite a few changes since they last met.
Yeah, whole time war. But he kept the leather jacket.
Yeah, it'd be interesting that loner. I mean, I wonder if he'd maybe would travel with Liv again, but Liv chooses that she's living with Tanya now, so she chooses to stay behind.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see how that story ends. Yeah, have to see.
Yeah, and then hopefully a 2-parter in the final set.
Yeah, we can only but pray.
Yeah. But yeah, these stories certainly seem to suit being more 1-parters, though.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not too disappointed by the lack of 2-parters in this set. I just hope we do get one to close the series off on.
I think if Eccleston does a series 3, which is probably likely, I like it to go back to like the traditional RTD format.
Yeah,
I'd like something like that, but like a big finish equivalent of it, really.
yeah, 3 two-parters throughout.
Or it feels like its own, like a bit like Dalek Universe, where it's like an interconnected thing with like a big overarching story.
Yeah, something that'd be interesting for the Ninth Doctor.
Yeah, that's what I'd like in the future for Eccleston.
Yeah,
Obviously Rose as well, but we'll just have to wait and see on that one.
yeah. I mean, we've got Billy Piper back in October as well.
I forget that's happening for Dimension canon stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like we're so far away from it, but yet so close.
And then we got another one of that in next September. That's definitely a fair while away, but we'll come round quickly, knowing.
Oh yeah.
Luck. Yeah. Mr. Bonkcatcher says, "Have no idea who you are, Stephen, but have a good night." Stephen Noonan is the voice of the first Doctor on Big Finish at the moment, or one of the voices, because he's still got David Bradley around. But yeah, he played him in the Outlaws and in some upcoming sets as well. Mr. Bonkcactus.
I guess that's the Liv and Tanya stuff, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all the news in general, isn't it? No, I don't.
Yeah,
Is there
I think
any
it is.
sneaky trailers they put out that we've not talked about?
No. I'm just looking at the recent stuff. Doesn't look like there is.
Seabird 1 had a trailer. Did you listen to that?
Oh yeah, I did listen to that. That was all right, actually. That was a good trailer.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, the "Oh shame." That is like the where she says "Oh shame." That's what leads into the first title sequence. So there's no other way you could have done that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
But we've got a Davison equivalent, which is nice. With our little clip of good old Davo. Where is it? I'm going to play it because, why not?
Oh, that's terrible.
So shame. You get that. We had the Benny trailer.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of talked about that a little bit when we were talking about anticipated releases, weren't we? But yeah, that was a wonderful trailer.
Yeah, really strong trailer, that one.
Yeah, love the atmosphere. And like we said before, the invasion hypnosis sound effect.
Yeah, just scream 60 Cybermen and I'm here for it.
Stardust Person asks an interesting question here. Have you ever met a celebrity by accident?
I wouldn't say it's by. Yeah, I guess it was by accident. I think I just arrived or just leaving Euston Station in London, and Big Man Boris was there, and this was before he was Prime Minister, and I went to London last year in September, and I arrived again at Euston, and the Mr. Undertaker, Jacob Rogmees, whatever, you know what I mean, Mr. Victorian gentleman was there with like a security. I was like,
Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Yeah. And I was like, didn't really want to bump into you. But they're not really celebrities. They're just another word.
Well, I mean, not quite on that level of celebrity, I suppose, but a much more decent human being.
Yeah, that's pretty better.
Yeah. I did meet Tim Treloar once back in. I think this was just before Volume 3 came out, the third Doctor Ventures.
I've not heard this.
Oh, have you not?
No. I'm going to sit down and get comfy. Not like I've been sat down for the past 2 hours.
But this was about in between my years at uni. I was working at a theatre as the car parking assistant, but there's like a more technical term for it, but I can't remember.
I guess it's not like front of house.
No, I'm like literally, because it's quite a small car park, they needed someone there to very much direct the cars all in the right spots.
Oh, so you're like in the high vis going, go on,
come this way. Yeah. And Tim Treloar, being an actor, was working on a play at the time.
Oh, so you didn't direct his car going, where's Bessie?
No, not quite that. He like came over to me and told me about that his mum was coming to see his performance. So it was like
Okay.
say about getting her in a certain spot or something. I can't quite remember what. Yeah, he was.
Did you go? By the way, I like your Big Finish.
No, I didn't. Sadly, and I've kicked myself ever since. Not for because I thought.
You should have just let it slip, and then you could have got a little photo of him.
Yeah, it's something that I've regretted since not mentioning it to him. But yeah, and I think he also asked one time about what's going on in there, because I had to do like there was a children workshop type thing they were doing.
Oh yeah, like
One time as
facilitator
well.
type thing.
Yeah, and because they don't have like a little spot for the actors who are working on the main show they've got going on. So he was obviously there, and he came up to me and asked what they were, what was going on here that I was helping out with, and I said that was just a children's workshop type thing. But that was when he was like had loads of his acting mates around him as well. So I thought, oh no, probably not the right time to bring it.
And they're like, Mr. Trelaw, Mr. Trelaw, I love you. Yeah.
I could have sworn I told you that story before, but
No, I don't think I've heard that before. That's right,
Oh,
quite
there you go.
wholesome actually. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, he's definitely a very pleasant fellow.
A very fine fellow, you know.
A
very fine vintage.
Cool. Mr. Bonkactor says, I remember Sean Dingwall, Pete Tyler worked at my school for a bit. Wow.
That's a bit of a nice bit of fun fact, that is. Yeah,
Stephen News says, thank you, Mr. Bonkactus. I know exactly who you are, and I hope you have a wonderful evening too. Yeah, we all know Mr. Bonkactus around here.
Yes, quite so. Yes.
That's very, very, very interesting. Yeah, I suppose. Wow, we've always been out for 3 hours now. It's been one of our longer ones.
Been a good one. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, the relaunch, and of course our top fives. And obviously talking to you, wonderful people watching, who we appreciate a lot.
Yeah. Thank you all for sticking with us throughout this, because it has been a bit of a long one. Yeah, if you're still listening, let us know what your number one. We won't get you to do a whole top five.
No,
that can be quite exclusive, but give us your number one release of the year so far. Let's
or a release you're looking forward to.
Yeah,
as well. Just see what people are excited about spending their money on.
Such person also asks, will you be getting the 4K of the Dalek films, Luke? They're quite expensive, aren't they? Some of them.
The Steelbook's a cheaper option, but I think they're doing a standard release.
I might go for the standard release. Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people have bought the collector's one, so it goes with the collection sets, so they all line up. But I think he also asked, Stage One also asked for me, will I be getting the collector's one? Probably, maybe if they're a bit cheaper. For me, it's wrong to say tat, but it's like the tat I'm not really interested in. Like, I'm not a posted type of person. So I feel like the only thing what interests me is like the Queen. But that's about it. And like the booklets are nice, but yeah, it's all right. I feel like I've got the film.
Did you ever get that like Fourth Doctor time capsule?
I did.
Didn't that had the Terror of the Zygons though, didn't it, before it was out on DVD?
And it had the Fourth Doctor regenerated figure. Like that was exclusive to that set. So
there you go. You need that then for your
I need, it's not I need, I required it. What and you had like an exclusive interview with Tom as well, so it wasn't like I'm paying it for the box, and I got Tom to sign it, and it's one of my favorite things actually.
It doesn't feel like they've stuffed stuff in there just to pad it out.
Yeah, you've got a nice little art card, and then you get like an exclusive book cover. Ooh, it's exciting. And a sonic screwdriver. But yeah, I feel like that's a bit of a different sort of collector's edition, because it was, I think that was 2014, so that was like 40 years of Tom.
No, I think, would it have been before that? because Terror of the Zygons came out 2013.
Oh yeah, maybe it was 2013, but I swear I had in my head it was 2014. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right for sure.
Stars Post says the coin will only come with the first batch of collector's edition sets.
Wow.
Yeah,
I just think,
though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think 50 quid is just a bit steep.
Especially when you've already got the steelbook.
Well, I've got the steelbook twice because I got the Zavi once. I feel like you've got to be a bit selective, really. I'm down the steelbook rabbit hole. I'm probably just going to stick with that now. I'm happy with that.
For your question about what people are most anticipated for the rest of this year, Bucket Think Tank says definitely Gallifrey
Right, Jonathan Ross.
Bit of Pertwee, actually, my boy.
I was thinking Roy Hodgson.
Have been enjoying the series so far, and I really just love the Gallifrey series. Fair enough. It is a wonderful cover, that one. I think Ben's not as keen on that cover as I am, but yeah, I do quite like that one. And hopefully, I feel like Gallifrey's been a bit more on shaky ground for me, but hopefully this as a fresh start can breathe a good bit of life into the series.
What do you think will be the next Doctor Who collection box set?
I mean, there's a fair few contenders, isn't there, at this point?
There is, and it feels like weird not knowing what the next one is. Because we're all tucking into season 22 at the minute, but we want to know what the next one is.
Yeah, we used to having it announced before the current one's out, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like season 22 might be a fair bet. Like
season 22? 22? I mean, have you not had your copy yet?
Yeah. It's 2021, isn't it?
Has nobody told you that it's out?
I've just got my season 24.
Oh, you are a bit behind. That might be a bit of a spoiler. That one, season 17 is coming out as well. That year.
Oh no!
Oh damn, I've ruined it.
Next should be timely. Michael Charlton's going to play the Doctor. And David Tennant's going to be back on TV.
Well, maybe. Yeah, and Shooty Gamma's the Doctor.
Oh wow!
Wow, yeah.
I mean,
and Sea Boys are back.
Something ridiculous like Beat the Meat.
What, Beat the Meat's back? Wow.
You tell me.
What a weird time we live in. Yeah, well, it's a weird time we live in.
But yeah, season 2. That one I could see being released.
Yeah, I mean, 20's been on the cards for so long.
Yeah. That just feels like the meme that keeps going, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think as well. I feel like we're long overdue a Davison set as well.
Yeah, he had the second set ever, didn't he? It was 12 first, then 19, and then we haven't had any Davison since Big Davo.
Yeah, it's strange, really.
Ryan Gosling sporting unofficial merchandise as well. Did you see all that on Twitter?
Yeah, I did. It was great.
Mad.
And even Russell posted on Instagram. You're like, oh wow, we were.
Madness. Who is this Beat the Meat guy I keep hearing about? He was a comic book villain from 1977. No,
78. Yeah, he's like this warlord, isn't he? Like a little criminal. It's like
he looks really cute.
Yeah, it's like a Furby in a way. I want to say.
Yeah, he is from the comics, but it seems like you might be making the jump into live action when Russell takes over.
Yeah, just have to see. Just have to see how it pans out. It just feels like a fever dream getting every little bit of information from RTD2. Like, it doesn't feel real that Russ was back still. Like, and that still feels like that's nearly a year old, that news. It's crazy. Really crazy.
Yeah, it was September, wasn't it? I mean, so much news has come out this year. It's an exciting time. And
I'm sure we're going to have a bombardment of more. Like, every Sunday, I kind of gear myself ready for another announcement. Okay, what's going to drop today?
we've only scratched the surface so far. I think filming's due to end this month, isn't it? Like the end of this month, maybe.
I don't know if it's been
start
extended till August
maybe.
now.
I think
Dunno.
sometimes it happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But, and I think they're meant to be starting up again in November.
I guess that's with Shooty.
Yeah, because I think they're filming sex education over this summer, aren't they?
Yeah.
I imagine after Shooty wraps on the Barbie film, which is why
Everyone's going to be seeing the Barbie film. Like, that's what he means. Like, free tickets to Barbie, please.
Yeah, Barbie by Greta Gerwig. Oh, have you seen what's been going on with the Minions?
Yeah, like everyone's becoming suited and booted, and now they're like banning people who come in the cinema with suits to see the film, The Rise of Gru.
It's a crazy time to be alive.
We've moved from Morbius to Barbie
Yeah.
to Minions.
Yeah, I saw someone saying about how Sony must have no idea how to market to Gen Z because they memed the fuck out of Morbius. And then no one turned up to see it when they re-released it. And now everyone's turning up to see Minions in a suit.
To be fair, it's very like a more higher grossing film than Morbius.
That wouldn't surprise me.
What a time with forget a Binley Mega Chippy. We moved on now.
Mm.
Yeah. Mental times, yeah. What a fever dream we are all living at the minute. I guess that's a good place for us to end our old stream for tonight.
Yeah, it's been a good one.
It's been fun. I always look forward to doing like these top fives, and I'm sure when it hits December, January, we'll do a massive tier list of all the Big Finish releases and see if we argue where things go. But it's a nice little check-in to see where we're at and, you know, how the relaunch is going.
Yeah, it's like nice to stop at the halfway point for a second, have a look back at where we've been, and then
plow forward. Really?
Yeah. I mean, Beyond War Games. Hopefully tomorrow, maybe Wednesday.
Hopefully tomorrow.
Great to dive into that, and then you'll hopefully be hearing our thoughts on that the Friday after this. Maybe we're doing that on the 15th, I believe the day is. But do you want to announce what this Friday is, the 8th?
Our next one, rather fittingly, to continue our sort of a year. I want to say like a year celebration at this point.
Yeah.
We started this trend on Big Finish fans with tier lists, and we're revisiting the 8th Doctor, and we're going to be looking at all the box sets what have come out since that tier list, really.
Yeah, going from Dark Eyes 1 through to Stranded 4.
And just having a good old time, really.
Yeah, it's sort of like a nice little look back at the pre-relaunch era of box sets before we get into that. And that'll be a year exactly from when we first did our 8th Doctor box sets tier list. Yeah, July 8th, 2021.
We like our synergy.
It's the 8th for the 8th Doctor. So
yeah, because we had a different idea to do the 4th Doctor Series 11, but when you get an opportunity like that, you kind of got to go, Tom, you can wait for a little bit.
Yeah, Tom's that'll hopefully be week after War Games, and not just Beyond War Games. We will also finally be doing the Black Hole as well.
We said promised
that we would, if we get. I mean, we're cheating a little bit, but we never said we wouldn't combine it with another release. And Beyond War Games seems a fitting release, so it'll be a Second Doctor extravaganza stream.
It'll be the first Second Doctor extravaganza stream we do, because we've normally paired Troughton with a Hartnell release, or there's been another something else going on. So it's nice just to do a solo Troughton one, and maybe we can talk about some of our favourite Troughton audios as well. A little bit of a discussion as well.
Second Doctor love.
Yeah, so that's all upcoming. Hopefully you can join us on Friday for some McGann goodness. I mean, who doesn't? It's Paul McGann. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, lurkers. And if you're watching this on catch up, hope you've enjoyed it. And we will see you all very soon. So thank you very much and take care. Bye-bye.